Hello, hello.
Hello. How's it going?
Well, welcome, one and all, to another
Yeah.
update Q&A.
You there? Yeah, I got you. You having speaker issues?
I did just there for a second.
Oh, okay.
Couldn't hear anything, but it's all right. I'm back now. Sorry. What did you say?
I said, how's it going?
Oh yeah, no, it's going good. Apart from speaker issues.
Yeah.
Right. So I think so first of all, we obviously, for those that don't know, it's Google I/O right now. I think it's 2-3 days of various things happening at Shoreline in Mountain View, California, around the Google campus. I couldn't make it.
Yeah, me neither.
Things happened. Had to cancel. Give me a ticket. However, in the meantime, I probably wouldn't have got these things in time. But I got a lovely little thank you from the Flutter team here, and they sent me a lovely couple of gifts. A new Flutter laptop bag.
Nice.
Put the laptop in there, and an official.
Oh, and a cool beverage holder. Yeah.
Beverage mug. I don't. It's I mean, it's just like a thermos kind of drink mug. I think people are going crazy over things. It's just it's a cup.
Yeah.
But yeah, like insulated, right?
Nice.
But I haven't used it yet, so I have to give it a go, and then I'll tell you my I'll tell you my feedback. But yeah, it's got like a lid that kind of.
Oh yeah, closable. Nice.
I've got a straw in it and close it. I don't know. What can I say? It's a cup.
Yep.
It's a big cup. And honestly, I don't even know what I put in there. It's so big.
It is big. Yeah.
I know why they do this though, right? You know why they do the tapering at the bottom? So it fits in a car cup holder, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway. So that was pretty nice. So nice surprise.
Yeah, I saw a few comments already. So Randall is actually at the event, and so is Scott.
Yeah, so I know Scott. That's why Scott and Randall there, and Nash as well.
Yep,
the other half of the crew.
Yeah, a lot of people out there, but that's why they're not joining. Randall might pop in. He said, depending on sessions. We'll see.
Yep. So as we say normally, get your questions in with a queue in front of them, and we'll briefly go through introductions. I mean, we just started talking, so let's just race through these. We normally do these things. John, do you want to do these, or shall I do them?
Yeah, I can do them. Yeah, so typical stuff applies here. We're here to have fun, answer some questions, but we want to be respectful and nice of everybody, both in the chat and anywhere where we're interacting in the community. So don't post anything that you shouldn't. No advertising. The folks on screen can advertise stuff they got going on, but don't advertise anything in the comments. Don't spam. So post your question. We see them if you put a Q in front of it. So don't go ahead and post it a second or third time if we don't get to it right away. We do take them in order, which means if you post it again, it goes to the bottom of the list. So don't post more than once. We'll get to it. We don't support any harassment. We have connections on all the different forums. You'll be banned not just here, but in other forums as well. So just don't do it. Lastly, have a good time. And the 7 dot that's not there is don't post any URLs. If you post a URL in your comment, nobody sees it except you. So we don't see it. Nobody else sees it, just you. So don't do it. And there's a great example I saw already.
I know. I was about to find that. No,
yeah.
If you want to post this code,
that's what you
give
do.
us a gist hash. That's what you need to do, and then we go open it up and look at it and talk about it and whatever we need to do. So
exactly.
So if you want to post that, then let us know. Right.
Yeah, do that. So let's see. Other housekeeping. I'm going to jump out in about 20 minutes because I have a stand-up that got moved, and then I'll come right back as soon as it's over.
Okay.
So, hopefully it won't take long. Yeah.
I I'm just seeing like all the posts right now of everyone at Google I/O. I'm so jealous.
I know.
I'm so jealous.
All the meetups, all the dinners, all the just everything going on out there. It's like, oh man,
It feels like it's been
my boss
too long.
My boss got to go, so he got a nice invite from Google to come out, and so he's out there, but unfortunately,
Let's see if I can share some stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to get
Oh, I see her falls out there.
Look at that. It's Danielle.
Hey,
with Rona and
and
super declarative himself.
Yeah,
Matt Carroll.
Matt's out there.
Yeah. So, and
all kinds of them.
There you go.
Yeah.
Where are you?
He's looking for everyone.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Hey mate, where was it? See if I can find it briefly. Then we'll get on with some actual stuff, I guess. Yeah, look who else is there.
Oh, there's Nash with Mark.
Yeah. Man. Anyway. So I guess we'll see where we get to.
Yeah.
So so I tell you what we'll do. So let everyone start again. To let there be time for everyone to enter your questions in the chat with a Q in front. Oh yeah, we should introduce ourselves. Should we do that briefly? I don't know. We can do that.
We can.
People know who we are. My name's Simon Lightfoot, Flutter community leader, CTO at DevTools London, at DevTools London. You can find me on all these other social media and all that kind of jazz. And I'm around answering questions. Scott and Danielle are at the event. So is Randall. And we have our semi-permanent guest, John, here to we need to get you up on those slides, I think, John.
So sounds good.
Do you want to briefly introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah. So John Weezy, I'm architect, engineer with Microsoft, doing a lot of Flutter stuff. Been around since the early days, late 17, early 18, and answering questions all over the place, and manage the Flutter community Medium. So any of you authors out there, we can use more authors all the time if you have stuff you want to submit and have us host or repost. Yep.
Definitely worth mentioning that if you want to post something, it's better to be in draft if you want us to review it and so on. If it's already been posted, it's hard for us to do that. But I guess, so we can go through. So one of the things I want to do is go through 3.22 and 3.4 releases, because I have not read anything yet. So
I glanced through the notes this morning. So
so I just didn't have any time yesterday, with the reason why I couldn't go to Google I/O. So I figure let's dive straight in. Use that time to then let questions flow in, and then we'll get some question time. I also think I found a bug in a list view that might have been around a while. I'm figuring maybe we can do some exploratory bug fixing, maybe.
Yeah, try and figure out why. Yeah.
So that might be fun.
Cool.
All right. So I'm going to shoot straight over to sharing this, I think. Let's see. Oh, wrong button. Hang on. I've messed that up.
You got the notes?
Right. Yeah. Do you know what? I'm just going to.
Otherwise, I've got it open.
No, it's all right. We're going to share a window because I've got all 3 articles open.
Oh, okay. Yes.
I can. Hopefully it comes through.
Yeah.
That should be big enough for everyone.
Looks good.
Yeah. So landing Flutter 3.22, 3.4. I'm assuming this was when I opened it up. So this was a while ago now, actually. 19 hours ago.
Yeah.
And then we've got. I started looking through this. This is.
Yep, that's the one I had open. Yeah.
So Flutter 3.22, and then we have announcing Dart 3.4. So I think we'll go for the generic, and then we can then go into the detail for each one. How's that sound?
Yep.
So major milestones for Flutter web apps, graphic performance upgrades, productivity experiments, and more. From Michael. And Flutter air traffic control, but we're happy now is that Flutter 3.2 and 3.4 have landed for Google I/O.
Yeah,
sure,
actually shipped the day before. Shipped Monday. Yeah.
It's always one of those things, right? Right. You do your announcements after you know that it's shipped successfully, that there's no problems, because you learn that lesson once. You don't.
Yeah.
Yep. Has anyone noticed this in Chrome now? When you tap anywhere, you get this flashing, blinking cursor,
like almost like an editor. No, I haven't noticed that. I haven't. I guess
I don't know why. It's not. It's on every website. Like YouTube, I get sometimes blinking into the top of the screen for the video.
Interesting.
I don't know.
No, I haven't noticed it
when it happened, but anyway. All right. Anyway, sorry. Let's go. So, offering performance improvements for Flutter and platform-specific refinements that bring closer to the vision. We're particularly excited to share more about our journey with Wasm. You'll find much more info, including improvements to Impeller rendering engine, smoother visuals, reduced CPU on iOS, enhanced platform navigations on Android's predictive back gesture, expanded monetization options for Google Mobile Ads SDK, and new powerful deep link validator, Dart developments, and streamlined API migrations with Dart Fix, IDE, DevTools, advanced profiling. Sorry, I've just coming over a bit of a cold. But you can now preview Vertex AI, Firebase Dart SDK. I did notice that. I didn't watch the full developer keynote, but I did see that they've Firebase have now sort of more tightly integrated with AI stuff from GCP, and apparently now Cloud SQL you can also access as well. Using Firebase, which is I've wanted for ages, so that's great.
And it got a new logo.
Oh yeah, of course. Sorry, the big thing. I literally, when they said, like, when the announcement came out, there's a big pause expecting for clapping, and no one there was a couple of gaps. I was like, yeah, because people wait for you to carry on, tell us what actually came. No, not the logo changed.
Yeah, nobody cares about the logo change.
And then developers, like, we're not marketing people. We don't.
No, I know. Yeah.
If there's a bunch of designers, sure, maybe that'd be like, yeah, brilliant.
I love watching that. I was thinking that yesterday as I was watching I think it was the developer keynote in the afternoon. There was a few times where like they would say something and they like pause waiting for the cheer or the clapping, and then they'd say something like, well, yeah, that's cool, kind of like the prompt, like you're supposed to clap.
I mean, there's an interesting thing here, right? And what I kind of felt was there's so much being spoken about AI. And I get AI and how good it is, and they're trying to push AI and Gemini and Gemma and all the rest of it. But it felt like the entire thing was just that. And I was like,
it was.
Okay, everyone's interested in it, but it's its own thing over here. It doesn't, and you can apply it to everything. Don't get me wrong.
We'll talk about
what everything's about.
Talk about how to use it with those other things. Like integrate it as like, okay, let's go build some stuff with Gemini in Flutter or in Kotlin or in whatever you want to talk about.
And highlight the cheers. Actually, you're saying that when they announced Flutter and the change of Flutter and whatever else during the keynote, there was big cheers from the audience.
Oh yeah,
big cheers.
Yeah.
And then it was like, and that was it. It was like,
and that was it. Yeah, exactly. That was my thought. I was like, wow, like Flutter's getting all the big cheers, and then like there's nothing. It was just like, yeah, Flutter's growing. It's the best out there for cross-platform. Blah blah blah. And then they moved
better than ever. And they did say that some companies were now using it, I think, and gave some examples, which I thought was really good. But again, it was just like you're talking about the developer keynote. I mean, that is the keynote. That's the thing that you give on the general Google keynote of like, here's an update on all our products. The developer keynote should be, here's all this cool tech that you can now utilize in your apps to make everything even better and bring more people to the platform, right? Like, I know. Anyway, then let's carry on. If you want more detail on everything, please check out these dedicated posts, which we're going to get to. So Flutter in action. Flutter developers busy launching large new apps and app stores. Let's look at a few. Okay, here you go. So this is what we're just talking about, right? So, so this is one. So it's funny. In the United Kingdom, financial institution Virgin Money is using Flutter across their suite of mobile banking, credit card apps, unified app platform. It's quite funny because is it Flutter Shark? There's an app you can install from the App Store, and it tells you what apps on your phone use Flutter.
I think so. Yeah.
And I looked at that and I was like, oh, okay. So I already knew this, but it's kind of interesting to like see
See
it come through.
Yeah, and Geico was one recently.
Geico, that's huge, isn't it, in America?
Yeah.
Geico.
Yep.
So I'm interested to see what that might come. And Universal Studios destinations experiences for Orlando Park. So this must be like their, I guess, guides around the park.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff, right? I haven't looked at the video, but there is a video here if people want to see it. I'll post these links. Sorry, everyone. Let's post these links in the chat for anyone that wants to.
If anybody wants to pull them up and look
to pull them up. I am not. I'm not starring questions here, so sorry. Let me. Oh dear. Oh, I'm a bit way back. Sorry.
Yeah, and I don't have a login to.
Yeah, no. I'll press all the buttons.
All right.
Give me a second, everyone. 1 minute. What did he catch up? Yes, Wasm is out. Nice to see you, Gonzalo.
All right.
Hey, Ralph.
Get them all.
Always lovely people joining us for the show.
Yeah. No,
47. Yeah. So yeah. You can go check out this video. I'll post the other links as well, so you can go. If you think our reading is too slow and you want to read ahead, go for it. I won't judge. I'm not the fastest here. I'm trying to go slow so we can comment on everything. So, all right, going beyond mobile and web, the Canonical team have been working. I used to say canonical. I could never say it. It's canonical.
Canonical.
Right? But for the most time, I remember saying that wrong all the time. Anyway, have been working on Flutter since 2021 to enable support for the Flutter ecosystem in Ubuntu. Over the past year, the Canonical team have rebuilt the Ubuntu installer from the ground up. Oh,
that's new. Yeah.
I mean, I know that they rebuilt their Ubuntu installer, but I think they're just doing more work with that. LG, this bit's interesting. Top highlight. LG have announced that choosing Flutter for their smart TV operating system, WebOS. Flutter's performance, productivity, and strong ecosystem allows LG to rapidly develop and deploy WebOS system apps that run smoothly. By 2025, Flutter will power system apps in tens of millions of LG TVs worldwide. That is huge. So I can see that how this can really work. So if they're building it Linux based, okay, great. Then you can just code directly to your platform with Flutter, nice UI, and maybe peel back some of that web because their coverage was WebOS. Its idea was it was all done in HTML, CSS, JavaScript.
Yeah.
But then there's that overhead that you're putting on top that your limited TV processor and memory is going to have to choke on.
Yeah.
Right. And we see that when you see TVs, they're like they're not the greatest experience. A lot of those things. No. They're not like it's not like I mean, I'll be honest with you, I prefer a TV just to be a monitor. And then I plug a separate box in. You can plug like one of those, like, I don't know. Yeah, anyway, digressions. But but I do think that they're probably going to be going down the route of building Flutter apps, output them as Wasm or something like that, so they can be compatible, or maybe not Wasm, but JavaScript for their current TV stuff, and then maybe having like a version that's output for Linux that then gives them compatibility in the two. Someone just said, Richard said, what about Google TV? I have no idea what you mean. Android TV or Google TV? Is Google TV a thing? I don't know.
Was it Chrome? What was it, Chromecast or something?
You got Chrome. Well, you got Chromecast, but you can always you can always do that. They're Android based,
right?
Well, just literally make your Flutter app and ship it.
Yep.
So let's see. Anyway, we're inspired to success stories and committed to making Flutter even better. Blah blah blah. Yeah. WebAssembly. Here we go. Chasing native performance on the web. I like that title.
Yeah.
Today we're announcing support for our stable release for compiling Flutter web apps to WebAssembly. There's an exciting new instruction format for web browsers, which provides portable platform neutral binary code format. I mean, that says it all. I mean, that is that's a sentence. That's a strong sentence. I do want to mention this because like most people don't understand maybe what assembler is or what Wasm actually is. So when you code something, right, you're in general that you're writing in a source level language, like you're writing Dart, right? And it's very much English what you're writing. All those things that you do inside your program, like call a function, and then inside that function declare a variable and set its value to like true or false and then return it or whatever else you're doing. Those are actually a series of steps, very finite steps, like call function, set memory to this value, read memory from that value. You know, there's these are what you call assembly instructions. I'm really sort of going over the edges here, but the point here is when you have those fundamental basic instructions of add, subtract, multiply, divide, move, memory, read memory, write memory, that kind of thing. You kind of mean that any language can be written on top of that. And that's literally how your CPUs work. So your CPUs use assembly, obviously not WebAssembly. And the idea here is if you could bring that power, that sort of low-level architecture to websites, then no longer are you limited to JavaScript. Now, this is huge. Now, Dart being WebAssembly at the very beginning is brilliant. Huge. But it's even huger to the entire developer ecosystem when you consider I might be in the future, not too distant future, be able to go any Microsoft intermediate level language supported, have the like C#, J#, D#, whatever sharp, I don't know, VB.NET, Python.NET, .NET, everything can all be compiled down to what's called IL lang, right? Intermediate language. And then intermediate language is essentially WebAssembly, for want of a better word. Now, the idea is that you would be able to get the intermediate form and then output, I suspect there'll be a WebAssembly, I don't know, but I suspect we'll soon start seeing the backends, that's called the back of the compiler, written to output WebAssembly for all those languages. And that's just part of the ecosystem. You go, okay, Python, you've got Rust. Rust will need the outputs to WebAssembly,
all that
backends.
stuff.
So all of this means that then suddenly building a website or building web technology is no longer limited to just JavaScript. And that can only benefit the entire industry because JavaScript is just prone to problems, right? So I think we're going to be seeing a whole ecosystem around Wasm. This is my prediction. We're going to start seeing ecosystems around Wasm. Like we have package managers for like Cargo for Rust, and you have pub.dev. I'm sure we're going to start seeing like things crop up around Wasm, like how to distribute libraries with Wasm and include Wasm-based libraries in your code. I really think that this is going to be huge. And the fact that, and the reason why this is so popular in Dart and Flutter is that it's on the leading edge, right? And the fact is that you've got Flutter that already does this rendering of UI and all these libraries are written in Dart code and they're just, bam, they're in Wasm. You can use them on websites. So powerful. So powerful. All right. Sorry, I'm harping on, but what are your thoughts on this? I mean,
it's great. I'm glad we've gotten to the point that we're at with it to really get people to start using it and playing with it. It's been great work and something that we've been looking forward to. So it's going to be good to start playing with it a lot more now that it's ready.
For sure. All right, let's see. Let's carry on. Sorry, we stood on that for a while, but we'll skip through this as quick as we can. When do you have to go? You got a few minutes?
Yeah, I got a few more minutes. It starts in about 7 minutes, so I'll jump off.
All right, so just let us know you go, and then I'll carry on with this, and we can then get on with the Q&A when you get back. All right. Okay. Our support for Wasm has been deep, multi-year investment. You forget it's been so long. Like it does feel like it's still recent, but the time I know it started some time ago, right?
Yeah. I mean, I remember us talking about this for .NET and stuff way back in a long time ago.
I don't think we would have what we have now in terms of a Wasm investment if it wasn't for Kevin Moore, right? Like he's really been leading the charge, I think.
Yeah.
It's not that simple. Don't get me wrong. I know, politics and everything else that comes into these things, but I do think that you need someone in a company that really has the heart, if that makes sense. They're invested. You can tell that they're really invested in this thing, and they know they believe in it. And if someone believes in it, you can believe in it. Right. That's the honest truth of it. So do you wanna just read a bit more of this? I'm just gonna pour myself a drink.
I mean, really, so they're just talking about, that they partnered with the Chrome team, to define the support for Wasm for the high-level languages like Dart and commonly used, garbage collection stuff. And that came to a proposal that they put through, the Wasm GC, which is standardized, and it is implemented in the versions of Chrome and Firefox that they show there. and then other browsers, browser vendors are expected to follow. So obviously Chromium means it's not just Chrome, it'll go into Edge as well and any other Chromium-based browsers. So they've hit the majority of them there. They also added a brand new Dart compiler backend for Wasm GC code, and the teams collaborated there to run both the compiled app code and the rendering as Wasm modules with interop there. So so it's really, that's a lot there, but the net result is just improved performance across both mobile and desktop devices in the browser with Wasm. So,
I mean, this whole Wasm GC is a big deal, right? Like garbage collection. Most modern languages have garbage collection. It's something that you don't want like slab memory allocation to be done inside each browser tab. Like it's super unoptimal in terms of overall memory architecture. You want to push that slab memory management to the very bottom level of the operating system and then allocate on top of that. So GC, when it comes to like garbage collection, you want that kind of high level abstraction to happening for the underlying memory management. And this is kind of interesting because Wasm is effectively a low level language, but you're getting garbage collection as well, which kind of puts it in the middle ground. It's very much it's Wasm is almost like a it's very much like IL lang, right? Like for the intermediate language from the .NET compiler, right? It's that kind of mid-tier mid-tier language, if you will. Maybe we can do some exploration around it at some point. Anyway, all right. So what's next? Much more improvement, mobile, desktop, running machine code.
Yeah, they're talking about different apps and improvements and stuff. Maybe should we jump to the next improvement?
Sure. We're just going to skip through this quick and I mean, basically they're saying here you get a better performance because Wasm is better for the browser to run, which they're showing some little screenshots here. Which is JavaScript, look at all this jank you get, and when it's compiled to Wasm, you get 60 FPS or whatever.
Yep. And they got some links here if you want to dig into that. So
if you want to follow up or try it yourself, follow these links. All right, so Dart macros, right. So I know this is still experimental, and you can enable it, but this is the start that I know everyone in the community has been waiting for this because for those that don't know, if you've not been building any big Flutter apps, you get to a point where you're using code generation, and to do anything, you're doing code generation. Every time you make a change, you're doing code generation. Then the code generation is what's the word? It's a whole set of steps that have to be run. It's not fast, put it that way, right? No. And that's just the way the mechanism worked, and it wasn't designed for what it's now being used for, right? Not directly, right? So it's overgrown. It's sort of outgrown its original intention, I think, in my personal opinion, at least. And then now, as you can see here, tackling the long-standing pain points of Dart developers like serializing JSON data, right? The prevailing pattern is that equal parts trivial and tedious. Current solutions mean either slogging through encoding and decoding boilerplate manually, or layering on top tooling in the form of code generation solutions like JSON serializable, right? Today, we're announcing a preview of better option for JSON, the JSON codable. This is like one of those things, like how do you come up with a new name for something and for it to mean the same thing? It's super difficult, I get it, but equally like JSON codable, fine. We'll take
a look at JSON codable macro or JSON serializable macro.
I think, but the thing is, whatever. Anyway, macros are code. Macros are code that create more code. They're AI, but code. No, I'm joking. They're not AI. They're like code generation, except the macrosystem is built into Dart and happens in real time as you're editing and running the code. This is the key point, right? This stops this extra separate pipeline that can't be cached. It doesn't use the same, can't take advantage of all the knowledge that the existing engine running has around the code, blah, blah, blah. It's an integrated experience without delays, fully supporting existing developer workflows such as hot reload and illustrated in this screenshot. All right, so what's happening here? Initially, no JSON code implementation exists, and after adding codable JSON, the to-JSON completion shows up immediately. Okay, so there is that's the generated code,
Yep.
So does it? I wonder if it exists in like it doesn't show here if it exists in like a .macro.dart file or something.
Yeah, so they're showing it's actually someplace else. Yeah, because they're just showing.
It could exist in a Dart tool directory, maybe as like an additional piece. I know they've done that kind of thing.
And I've seen a few people already start to put stuff out there. Some really cool. Somebody added a 2-string macro so that you can just call or printable. I think they call it.
Oh, did you see that? It said augment class.
Yeah,
that's interesting. See that again.
All right, I'm going to jump. I'll be back in a little bit.
All right, no worries. Yeah, so look, goes into the code, and then I wish I could pause this. It's a GIF, so I can't. Augment class vehicle. Interesting. All right, let's and this again. That's the other problem, right? You look at the generate code. It's never is generate code as clean as it would be if you write by hand, just because it has to. It's quite long and long form. We excited to see macros solve all kinds of problems. Our developers take an example of data classes as the highest voted feature. Beyond specific applications, our eventual goal is to have macro system in Dart that allows users to create their own macros and raise abstraction level in Dart programming. Great. Large task. Yeah, exactly, Ken. Thanks. Yeah, definitely. Have you seen the macro for widgets proposal? I have not. I mean, if they're just macros in Dart lang, surely you could put widgets with them or use them with widgets. I don't see a reason why that wouldn't work. I don't know. I'm curious. We'll see what happens. Right. Currently, no date set on a stable release. I mean, they weren't even sure they were going to release it. So at least they're saying now that if they've put this in a post like this, they believe they're going to release it. They just don't know when, right? So I think the key here for I think the Dart team, which is always the case, and we kind of cycled it back from some of this, and that is that we don't really have what's the word? I forgot what I was going to say now. It just dropped out off my tongue. No, it's gone. Doesn't matter. I'm sure it'll come back in a second. No, it's gone. Anyway, new resources: Flutter Games for development, Flutter for Games. Early investments in games, good success stories, Etamax, Supercell. So Loud Audio Engine now available in collaboration with the Flutter community and Marco. Yeah. To create a new free portable audio engine that delivers low latency, high performance, essential for many games. This is what we've been looking for ages. So I'm so glad that's come through. Generate expansive crossword style grids, interlocking words. Flutter and Flame, Box 2D. Okay, it's called Forge 2D. Okay, so that's cool. So basically, the Box 2D, a Dart port of the Box 2D physics engine. Okay, that's cool. Optimize my game loading speed. Okay, so there's a nice way of loading your stuff on browser, and you should follow that. Okay. Sustainable game development. Yeah, so there's another thing. The 10 winners were announced. So as you know, we've been pushing this on the channel. Like we had a few things here because it's absolutely awesome. And you can watch this. I'll pop this link in the chat if people want to sort of go check it out. But Better World, Craft Town. The fact that you're making these, I don't think people can really appreciate this enough. These are all made in Dart and Flutter, right? EcoShift Chronicles. Like, I think most of these are all like open source. I think, are they? I don't remember. Don't remember if they're if they have to be open source or not. Last Bottle, Endgame, SimCity in Flutter, Ocean Rangers, Plastic Punk. Oh, look at that. Good game strategy. Wastewise. Whaley's bin sorting. Yeah. So yeah, I think check it out. There's a lot more around that, and it's really a noble effort. I'm going to skip through some more as we can go quick. Preview Vertex AI for Flutter, Flutter, Firebase Dart SDK for Gemini, which they were talking about during Keynote, Google I/O Keynote. Predictive backs, improvements for rendering on Impeller. Platform views have been optimized, reducing CPU by 50%. That's huge. DevTools, Dart fixed, more DevTool changes. All right, so now we're going to go look at the technical posts, right? The bits we actually want to read. I think is that not the technical post? It was, right? Yeah, it was just a short link. Sorry. All right, so yeah, they're definitely quite advanced, Raf. Yeah, definitely those games. All right, so we've kind of gone through a few of these things. So I think we're more interested in some of the underlying pieces. So I'm going to skip through what we've already maybe mentioned and go into some of the details here. 1,595 pull requests. Stables are quarterly now. I think the stable releases are quarterly. I forget. It's quite a lot, you know. I mean, yeah, that's definitely a lot. Anyway, 37 new community members contributing for Flutter for the first time. And also that could be you. So if you find a bug, in fact, we might be looking at this. In fact, I'm definitely going to look at this in a bit. We're going to go look at the inner workings of list view, see if we can find this bug in list view that probably everyone's experienced. I can't believe it's there and it's what's happening. So I feel like maybe it's me that's making a mistake, but I know how it's all supposed to work. And this is not how it's supposed to happen. I'm pretty sure it's a bug. So if we can replicate, then great. We can, go there. Anyway, so dive in and discover all the new feature enhancements Flutter brings. Anyway, WebAssembly, we spoke about this, 2x, 3x, blah, blah, blah. Engine, this is it. So significant updates to Impeller, the rendering engine that powers Flutter applications. Key highlights include the completion of the Vulkan backend for Android for smooth graphics, improved performance, ongoing optimizations for blur effects, complex path rendering, and new experimental API for testing with Impeller. In line with our roadmap, we're committed to enhancing Impeller's quality and performance, including completing the iOS migration to Impeller and expanding Android support. Yeah. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So Impeller, Vulkan backend. Yeah, definitely. So for those that don't know, Vulkan is a graphics rendering API, very low level one. So the ones that we've kind of for a long time when 3D graphics came around as 3D accelerators, it was DirectX and OpenGL and Glide. No one knows. Glide died. And we're left with OpenGL and DirectX for a very long time. And then the people behind the OpenGL spec, Kronos, realized that it no longer is fit for purpose. They did version 1, version 2, various different revisions and so on. And then we kind of go, okay, we really like graphics have changed. The way that we process graphics have changed. Okay, let's go make Vulkan. So they've gone ahead and produced Vulkan. So Vulkan is the successor to OpenGL, if you will, right? But OpenGL is so ingrained, it's going to be a long time. They're going to be side by side. And in fact, I think there's things that like replicate the OpenGL API, but that output sort of Vulkan or that kind of thing. And there's a few other things like I think it's Angle, which does like so you can program to OpenGL and it'll run on DirectX, stuff like that. Anyway, completely off topic, right? So Vulkan, the Vulkan backend is in a lot of new phones and hardware. I say new; it's still like 6 years new, right? I don't know where Vulkan's been around a while in mobiles. Anyway, fast advanced blends. Support for custom fragment shaders and platform view support that requires small API migration and fully implemented all blur styles. So I didn't even know that all blur styles weren't implemented. Frame buffer fetch via subpass in Vulkan without extensions. Okay, I can see that. This is for advanced blends, fast advanced blends. Yeah. So, you know, when you do blending, you need to know what the pixels around you are colored so that you can actually average out and work out what that pixel value is. And in doing that, you need to then render like maybe like 9 pixels for every 1 pixel, like to get like the average of them. And this, depending on like your how blurry you want it, that means you have to what's the word? Sample a lot more pixels, and it gets a bit more complicated. Oh, John, hello, you're back.
I'm back. Yeah.
That was quick. Though I've just carried on here with.
Oh yeah, going to Vulkan and stuff.
Yeah. Going to sort of some of the Vulkan stuff. I'm kind of interested. Yeah, I was just explaining. You know, like yeah. So the idea here being that it looks like they can do frame buffer fetch, i.e., fetch the subpixels and sampling them via subpass without resorting to extensions. Extensions are non-standard specifications. So, let me think of a good example here. Okay, so here's one for you. I'm not going to go look it up. You can look it up yourselves if you're interested. But when you, I'll give an example of what actually happens on your phone screen and on your computer screen right now. If you move a window around your screen, you only want the portion of the screen that the window was moved in to update, right? You don't want to update all the rest of your screen. Maybe you've got like 6 monitors. You don't need all your monitors refreshing and updating their graphics for just you changing an icon or clicking on something and changing the colors for that one piece of the entire screen. Fundamentally, in computers, that's you have a frame buffer and all the pixels get rendered, right? So the idea here is that when it works out what needs to be rendered, it works out this is the bit of the screen that's changed, right? Yep. There's different names given to this, but the idea is that you send that rectangle and its pixels to the graphics pipeline, works this out, and that is what's sent over over the wire to the graphics system to actually render. To display on the screen, sorry. And this way that you're only doing smaller amounts of data, you can then do more frames per second, you can do updates, and it's more performant. It's not quite like that, but you get, that's the kind of drift. Now that is great, but that is not standardized. Not each manufacturer of their little GPUs wants to do that slightly differently because they've got like different output pins, or the way they hook things up is different. So what they do is they make an extension to OpenGL or Vulkan. It's a function that you can then get a reference to inside your code and call it, and you provide the parameters. But this means as a developer, you no longer stand like we have with Flutter. You're no longer writing Flutter. You're now writing for iOS and Android and for this and for that. Yeah. So extensions are great, but then it means that you've got to do a lot more work. So if you can do things without extensions, the better, right? Yeah. And normally the case is at the low level, you can't. So it's really good that they have got this and done this. Obviously we could go into the details, but suffice to say, it looks like it's made its way in and it's improved the performance. So that's great. I'm kind of interested. What is this migration thing you're going to have to do? Plugins that render to a surface. So this is for the okay. The Android embedded uses a new API surface producer. Ooh. Okay, we'll have a quick look at that. Allows plugins to render to a surface. So surface is a graphic surface inside that exists inside the Android system, basically. Without need to manage what the backend implementation is. Plugins using the old create surface texture API will not work with Impeller. Okay, that's cool. That's interesting. So, oh wow, yeah, look, here you go. Yeah, they're really going into some detail. This is cool. So let's go into this a little bit, right? So, wow, yeah, this is cool. Yeah. So as you can see here, surface buffer producer. This is the camera is output to a surface texture. That's then using the external GLES texture, which again was an extension. I think it's made into the main thing now. Gets pulled into the rendering pipeline. Then it gets rendered to a surface view, which is a buffer producer or media codec, and then that outputs. Wow. Okay. Or to the surface flinger, which is the surface flinger is the compositing engine inside Flutter that composites multiple apps together and screens and so on. Okay, a new version of Android 29 introduced a backend agnostic hardware buffer, which coincides with the minimum version of Flutter will attempt to use the Vulkan renderer. In order to support this, Android embedding needs to be updated to support more generic surface creation, so it does not rely on the OpenGL ES. So basically, right now we're using this surface texture, which is OpenGL only. And if we want to support Vulkan, then we need to support surfaces and make it more generic. And then obviously the OpenGL version will continue to use this, and the Vulkan ones will use something else. Interesting. But that's also interesting in terms of how do you actually... So you can create a surface producer. Oh, okay. So you're getting given a surface schedule frame. Right, so here's you'll get your surface width height, set the width height if you want to readjust your surface. And once you've got your standard Android surface, which is you can then do a lot with that. That's like your generic sort of base for pretty much everything in Android. So yeah, you can lock it, get canvas, do your rendering, whatever you need to do. Yeah, and then you can then schedule a frame to tell Flutter that it's ready to be displayed, I guess. Yeah. Okay. So if you do this is critical if you're doing things like your own plugins, like video players and things like that are going to need this kind of access. But yeah, that's cool. Interesting. Good to know. Android preview. Releasing improvements in Impeller's OpenGL backend. We're inviting users to try out the Android devices. Yeah. So basically they're saying with and without Vulkan support. So they've improved their the Android stuff because they went, for those that don't know, that are new, Impeller is the new rendering backend that replaces Skier, and Impeller is now is released as the on iOS, and it's been released on Android as preview, and it's continuing to be improved. But obviously, this is the critical thing: you need to enable the flag, you need to try it out, and if you get issues, report those issues. Go find the tickets, and report them. Yeah, it's like people are scared to make issues. I swear, I don't get it. I don't get it. Just throw it all there. Like obviously look to see if there's an existing issue, right? That covers it. And if there is, thumb it up, put your little comment in saying, I'm experiencing too. Here's my code, here's my example, whatever it is. Yeah.
Well, if there isn't, then put as much info in as you can. Don't just hey,
it don't work. My app no work, it's screenshot right now. Yeah, try and put in like a code snippet or something that you can reproduce. I know it's
screenshots, code snippets, reproducible, project, whatever. Yeah,
I know it's quite a bit to ask than just like typing a message out, but at the end of the day, it's still nothing can compare to actually finding a bug and solving the bug and working on the code, and that's what they need to do. And this is for the benefit for all of us, right? Not just all those people listening, but like the entire Flutter community, right? Like. Yeah.
Yep. Anyway. If you found it and it's annoying you and you want it fixed, give as much info as you can.
Yeah, it's like you can't expect this thing to be like perfect out the door first time if no one's telling them that there's bugs, right? Or there's issues, right? And they can't experience like I see that many hands fix something quick or something like many eyes.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but I mean, we all build software. How many people that you give that software to use it exactly the way you thought they would?
Right.
You're going to do something that they didn't think of, maybe, and, didn't test for. So.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. I almost forgot about the shader compilation jank iOS issue that was around for a while. Yeah. And this all came around as a potential solution around that issue, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Additionally, in our benchmarks, it outperforms legacy renderer on average in the 90th and 99th percentile of frame times. Therefore, we believe the performance of the Vulkan backend render on Android is acceptable. And in this release, an app that opts into Impeller will use the Vulkan backend where available. And in future releases, it will become the default. When an app that opts to the Impeller to use Impeller runs on the device that doesn't support Vulkan, Flutter will gracefully fall back to automatically to use the OpenGL ES and with Skier. Okay, so they're not doing OpenGL support for Impeller.
No.
Does that mean they're not going to do any OpenGL support for Impeller, or does this mean that that's just what it does at the moment?
So yes, if you're on a device that doesn't support Vulkan, then it will go back to using.
No. In the future, when we believe that OpenGL ES Impeller backend is ready for
Yeah.
production, we'll fall back to this. Okay, cool.
Yep.
So basically, it will use Vulkan, and if not, Skier at the moment, and then in the future, it will still be Impeller all platforms, but still fall back to the right one. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Impeller Preview on Android continues through 3.22 stable. We request Flutter developers upgrade to the latest stable version, file issues and shortcomings when Impeller is enabled. And obviously, you follow this link here now to show how to enable it. Feedback at this stage is invaluable to ensuring that Impeller is successful on Android, and they'll be able to confidently make it the default render in later years. The Android hardware ecosystem is very diverse, and for that reason, most helpful feedback about Impeller should include detailed information about a specific device and Android version with the issue code, as we just said. I will also carry out this and say, I don't think we call this out, but it's not just going to support Android. Yes, you're going to find bugs, but that may be because that bug exists in the Android one, because it already was an existing bug on the iOS one, or the underlying system that maybe joins it all together that they didn't know about. So this is invaluable to everything to do with Flutter, not just like all the platforms that Flutter is going to be running on in the future as well. So, blur performance improvements, reimplementation of Impeller for iOS and Android has been re-implemented. Okay, that's PR. In particular, the new approach is similar to Skier's, reducing the CPU and GPU's time to blur by nearly half in benchmarks. Okay, cool.
Yeah, there's
the chart below shows that.
Is it this one? I don't remember if it's this one or the next one. There's a interesting like GIF of the change. Might be the next one.
Stencil then covers, and so actually I know quite a bit about. So it's coming from OpenGL using stencils.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a good way of explaining stencils, apart from it's a stencil.
Right.
The idea is that you've kind of got a buffer, just like think of it like a picture, and you can put parts of the picture as black or white, and that's like on or off, right? And you can have like an 8-bit buffer, which means you have 8-bit values for each pixel, and that means you can then you could treat them like. The idea is that with the stencil buffers, you can put conditions on them. So, okay, if this pixel in the stencil buffer is this value, then don't do this or do that, and you can do that as part of your pipeline. So the idea here is that when you use a stencil, you can say stencil paint with red, like cover with red, and only when the stencil value is 0 and I've got my color red, does red get output, right? So you end up like it's almost like a paint stencil in that sense, right? Now this stenciling is used for drawing text in a lot of like platforms, right? So they have a stencil for each, like a quadrant for quad, and it will denote the shape of the letter that's to be stenciled on, drawn on, basically. So coming back to this, so the original, and this is kind of interesting. I'm gonna go into this because this is quite interesting. If I can find the right link, here we are. This is it. Yeah. So someone. Code Pale Light, I don't know who that is, put in this here. Recently, whilst reading the code of Skier's new GPU backend Graphite, I noticed that they did not use a technology like libtest2 to triangulate paths, but instead use stencil then cover or its variants. Details can be found here and here and here. In my opinion, the stencil then cover may have many benefits, such as not requiring triangulation techniques like libtest2, thus saving CPU time. So for those that don't know, to render any graphics, you're rendering triangles, or you need to know what pixels to paint at least, right? And so the idea is if you've got like some fancy shape that you've drawn with a path, you need to convert that into triangles, and you paint those triangles. And that's called tessellation, that technique of converting a polygon into triangles. And libtest2 is one of those packages that does that. Now, all that calculation of those triangles happens on the CPU. And you just you don't want to do that. You want to do that as least amount as possible, basically. As in use the CPU as least as possible, right? So in this case, they're suggesting here that if you, it can also solve a bunch of problems you get with convex and concave paths and so on with doing tessellation. It'd be pretty computationally expensive. But then stencil and cover has its own drawbacks, maybe 2 or 3 passes, blah 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 blah. And then the question just came up is, why did you choose to do this? And there's a whole conversation. I actually read it. I found it quite interesting. Obviously, me personally, because I understand the whole graphic stuff. But what it came down to, it was just the way that the existing stencil buffer is being used for clipping, right? So again, in Flutter, when you say clip this area to a rectangle, it creates a stencil buffer and says, oh, if this value's not there or to a certain value or whatever, it will paint through and therefore clip the things that aren't part of the stencil buffer. The problem here is you don't want to have lots and lots of stencil buffers for each layer of what you're drawing, and so on. It gets really expensive. So the technique can be that you use a bit in a stencil buffer to represent on or off, right? So then you can have, here is it clipped on or off, here is it, and you can do the same thing for the polygons and the shading of shapes, which gets you, this is the stencil then cover. So anyway, kind of long story short, this has now been merged and has now made its way in. They changed some of the existing code to make it so now use stencil then cover. And the approach, as you can see here, this approach solves the issue where rastering thread was spending too much time calculating tessellations for complex paths on the CPU. For example, SVGs and Lottie animations. I have personally experienced this when I was doing text rendering, so a custom text rendering piece in Flutter as well. And and basically they're saying here that they render more smoothly, lower CPU utilization, higher GPU utilization. But you can see there's more consistency here on the right hand side, less being used. And it's not immediately obvious in terms of frame, but what you're going to see here is when it adds up, right? So when you bring them all together, suddenly you're going to be getting this skips and frames and frame drops, basically. There you go. Look, on a recent iPhone, it took 64 milliseconds of frame to raster and CPU time to render of raster thread CPU time to render it. The same animation we landed is raster time is 10 times faster.
Yeah, I mean, all you got to do is watch the chart at the top, and you can tell that it is way faster.
So, by the way, it's not this bottom one we're looking at; it's the top one here.
Right. Yeah. But look at the top one's red. Bottom one barely hits the first. It's huge difference.
Yeah, so you can't really see there, but 6.4 milliseconds versus 64 milliseconds of frame.
Yeah.
By the way, the reason why these lines exist is this is your 16 frame per second line, and this is your 30 frame per second line.
Yeah.
So this is 60 milliseconds, and this is 60 milliseconds. No, is 30, and 8 for 60 FPS. Yeah. Is it? Sounds about right. I don't know. I can't remember. You can do the math. Right. Anyway. So there, new API. While still experimental, you can Flutter test now accepts the enable Impeller flag, which exercises Impeller using the Vulkan backend. So that's great. Widget state properties. Material state has been moved outside of the material library and renamed to widget state in order to make it available to the Cupertino library, the base Flutter framework, and other package authors. So this has got a migration guide. But again, this is in moving to that notion of having this. We've been talking about for years, is again away from like everything's material. There's a base set of widget kind of things that are everything can be done on top of, right?
Yeah. Just finally moving some of that stuff.
Oh, what's this? What is
I
this?
didn't dig through that one. I read through it, but I didn't look at the details. So
dynamic view sizing.
Yeah.
The original change reverted because of course mouse gets stuck on splash screen on some phones. Oh, what'd you know? If your app's doing that, you should get the latest version of Flutter then. Anyway, it's due to a rounding error. Ouch. It reports the physical size of this with a DPI of this. Flutter will translate this to a logical size and then use that as the input for its layout algorithm. Since the constraints here are tight, the algorithm would determine that the resulting logical size of the root rendering object must be this and this, translating it back to physical pixels by applying the DPI resolution, which means you now get a rounding error for the frame. Android now rejected that frame because it didn't match its expected size. Floating point rounding errors, a whole class of bugs. The usual. Anyway. And they would never take down the splash screen because that was the first frame maybe that rendered. Prior to dynamic sizing views, this wasn't an issue because it was hard-coded frame size to whatever requested size was.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So basically, they're saying that now, because you can have like a web page or something else change its size and a window change its size dynamically, that this was a bug that was existing and now this has been resolved. Cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Definitely worth it. Improved form validation. Thanks to contributions from the Flutter community member, Flutter 3.22 comes with more flexible form validation methods, allowing developers to create more robust user input. So form validation has always been a massive ooking problem. Like, it's just so painful. Introduced validate granularly, which, apart from announcing the errors in the UI, returns a map key bool providing more information about granular details about, I guess, what fields are valid.
Yeah.
What's really funny is I'm working on a project. I actually need this. So this is great. I don't know how to do it myself. So yeah, actually, I'm gonna just take a note of that to one side, and then I'll come back to that later. I do actually need that. So this is great. All right, cool. Moving on. We'll come back to that in a minute.
Covariance
and 2D APIs. Right. Reducing the need to typecast in 2D graphics API simplifies development workflows. I get that. Can you give me an example? This would be so helpful.
Yeah.
So I think I know what this is about. When I read this, it says to me that there's a few places where you have like offset and vector and two and all this kind of stuff. And I think we have about 4 different classes that represent the same thing in different systems. Yep. It really irks me, to be fair, because you're never compatible between them. You have to convert between them. Yeah. So if they're saying that now we're going to be seeing covariant sort of base pattern to be used, maybe that means we can start reusing these things, these APIs across different systems. Then, like Flame using vector and Flutter using offset, on vice versa.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. The next one I thought was fun. Was a nice one.
Flavor conditional asset bundling. Oh,
yes, finally.
Yes. Thank you. Yep. Developers using flavors feature can now configure individual assets to be bundled only when building for a specific flavor. For more information, check out conditionally bundling assets. Yes.
Now you can put them in.
So that's cool. You just tag them as the flavor.
Just put in your flavor. Yeah.
Well, boom, done. Yep. Simple. I don't need to read anything else.
Nope, that's it. That's it.
And so I wonder if these packages are going to get updates for support this. That'd be helpful. Yeah. That I've needed.
A long time ago, we needed
that. Oh, I missed those favors. I guess you need to take a look. Yeah. So yeah, there you go. So it's that simple. This is now for free. So I'm assuming the absence of flavors means it does all flavors, right?
Yeah.
I wonder if they it's a shame you don't do things like so you know the way I don't know if it does this, so if not, maybe I can add it. But in git ignore, where you can put the exclamation mark before the path and it does a not, that might be helpful. So you can say, I basically say not free. So you're saying everything but the free version gets this asset.
Oh.
So you can do the inverse relationship, because that's also an important way of doing these things. Because otherwise you end up having to list out, if you've got a lot of flavors, maybe you've got 10 flavors, you're going to put 10 flavors, like 9 flavors, because you don't want it on that one on every single bunch of assets.
Right.
I see that being really annoying.
Yeah, because I mean, the example they're giving you here is the easy one, right? You put all of your assets for the free in one folder, the premium in another, and then you just set the flavor for that. But yeah, if you've got a folder of stuff that's used in all flavors, except for you have one image, I mean, I suppose you can move it into a folder.
I was gonna say I guess you can reorganize your things, but then again, you may not be, depending on if you're building those asset paths up from parameters at certain points. It may not be a way that you can do that.
Right.
I'd still say that flexibility in the way that we define our assets is really key to Flutter, one of Flutter's successes, right? Yeah. Not being so prescribed that you go, you must put your language files over here and your images over there and this over here. Like,
how many times we get questions in Discord and other places about, that are just formatting or the slash is the wrong way because whatever they're using wants it a certain way, and it's very confusing for people right now. I mean, we can figure it out, but it could be easier. So, but this is good stuff.
Yeah, there's actually something else I want to play around with at some point, so I'm going to put that to one side. Right, transformation of transformation of assets using Dart packages. Users can now configure Dart packages to transform their app's assets.
Yep.
As they are bundled.
Yep. At build time.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So let's dig into that one. Let's look at that.
I've wanted this for a very long time as well. Let me just open up. Where am I? Oh, there we go. You can configure your project to automatically transform assets at build time using compatible Dart packages. So we talked about compatible Dart package. We'll mention that you can also make that package yourself, of course. Like it can be like a tool in your tools directory or like something that you ship alongside your app. But this is very, very important. Oh, yes. Okay. So for those that don't know, we spoke about this before. We spoke a bit about Wasm, right? So I want to mention this. So as I said before earlier, like you have your source language, it compiles to Wasm, and then that could be quickly interpreted and run by the underlying system. The same thing is done with graphics, right? So you have your vector graphics in a very high-level source language. You want it into intermediate binary form so it can be ingested quickly without having to pass through all the semantics of XML and everything else.
Yep.
And then when it's in the intermediate form, you can just press play and it just shows it on the screen because it's been prepared.
Yeah.
So it's like the first pass has been done. So that's what this is doing. So for those that haven't seen, Dan Field, who is actually the owner and author of, it's Flutter SVG. Those that haven't seen this package, if you're using SVGs in Flutter, you're using this package normally, right? He also created this package called Vector Graphics. And this, there's not much in here, right? But the idea is that, let me go to the actual implementation here. Vector Graphics codec. There's not much of an example here, I'm afraid, but I've actually tried this out. It's pretty cool. The idea is that you use the compiler package to convert SVGs into this intermediary form. I'm trying to remember what the files end with, things like .v something. I can't remember. Oh, publisher. This must be the new thing. Maybe. Come back to this. Hang on. So, and then basically, in this case, the codec, I suspect. Where's the API? Here it is. Vector graphics codec. Yeah, right click path, decode. Right, draw path. Interesting.
Yeah, I think the docs had a good example of using it.
Yeah. Oh, is there? Is it? Oh,
yeah, I think.
Sorry,
where? Keep going back. I think.
Oh, is it back on the actual?
Yeah.
Oh, here. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, this is a good example here, but ignoring that. Basically, okay. So let me explain. So back to my point here. So, okay. So now we can specify a transformer, give it the package to use. It will then. Flutter's magical thing will then seek this package in pub.dev to pub.dev and everything else. And then it will run this transformer on this asset when compiling your app. And this will then convert that SVG into the vector format that the vector graphic library needs to load. So when you load it in here, this is actually not an SVG file anymore. This is a compiled vector file. So that'll be your, I think it's .vg is like the thing, vector graphics. I can't remember what he was using now. It's a while ago since I looked at it. But this is great. So this means that when it comes to loading your first time to frame, so this is like your first time to load of your app, especially on a splash screen where you want to use vector graphics, you don't have to wait for any pauses and graphics. It doesn't make your pipeline that complex because it doesn't have to take all that time to pass and load it. Anyway, all right. And you can pass arguments. There you go. Chaining asset transformers, PNG optimizer. Oh, look at that. That's great. Look, grayscale filter, PNG optimizer. I might just check that on all PNGs. Done.
Yep.
That's awesome. I'm assuming then, if this is going to be doing transformations, they've got to be a place where it's storing intermediate form, or they transformed.
Well, maybe there's. I mean, I would guess they're either storing it someplace specific or just in the path with the original.
Well, I was thinking maybe it's in the Dart tool directory.
Oh, that could be too.
Run this. Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be someplace where they, where then you can reference it, right? So, I mean, this one's a little different, right? Because you're just optimizing the PNG and applying a grayscale on top of it. So it's probably just saving an updated version of the PNG. Whereas the other one's probably saving it someplace where it can reference it.
This is opening up so many opportunities right now. I mean, you can already do this, right? In terms of I actually already do this in terms of pipeline localization things, right?
Mm-hmm.
You run these things as maybe using Melos or something as part of your pipeline.
Yeah.
And then the output is output your assets directory, and your assets are then just being compiled into your app.
Yeah.
But to do this do it part of the step. But if this is the one thing I can see that is going to have a problem right now, this needs a bit more maturing, I think. So you can see here it says with two arguments: input, which contains the path to the file to be transformed, output to where the location where transform code must be written. I have a feeling that this is going to be it's going to run it on every compile.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it means that what you're going to need to do here is down to the package transformer to almost dedupe, right?
Mm.
So go, oh, I don't need to run this again.
Right, I've already done
the output exists, right? Or I'm already done, or that kind of thing. Or the output was generated from this input hash. So if I hash the input and goes, it's the same, then I don't have to run my code again, right?
Yeah, unless the transformer is doing it, right? I mean, the transformer could be smart enough to know that the file hasn't changed since the last time you compile, so we don't need to rerun it.
Possibly. Builds an error, explain standard error, standard stuff, and there's even a sample project, so you can write your own. Yeah, this is going to be super helpful. Super helpful.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Android deep linking. Deep links can significantly improve user experience and Flutter app.
Yeah, this is about they added some more tooling in the developer tools for
I saw this.
Deep linking.
I mean, we talked about this, but last week, didn't we?
Yeah. Well, no, because they added more. So we talked about the other stuff, but now they've got some more tooling to help validate your server or your manifest file and stuff, which wasn't there.
Oh, okay. Wasn't it?
No, I don't think the manifest.
I thought this was here in the DevTools.
That was there to validate your deep links are set up correctly and working, but not that your manifest is correctly set up. That just got added, I think.
Okay. All right. Well, that's great because I tell you right now, deep links are one of those things that you can get wrong, and it's really painful to debug and get right because there's lots of moving parts. Cool. I mean, we've spoke about predictive back gesture. And about it's a breaking change. Everyone should make changes now, and we've been doing that for weeks now. So yeah, if you haven't seen this, get on it, get it done. It basically means, sadly, this is huge. But if we make it smaller, you can see this here. When you go back on a predictive, it knows you're trying to go back, so it can do that animation. That's the one on the right. Well, where the one on the left, you don't get that. You get the little arrow come up on the edge of the screen because it doesn't know you're actually going back or it's possible to go back yet. So that's the way if the operating system knows up front that you can or can't go back, then it can offer the right animation, the right thing to do, which is which we've been needing for ages, to be fair. Like this is an Android thing that's been around requirement for a long time. So finally getting it in there, it's really good.
And then this is just enforcing versioning of and it's still warnings. It's not errors yet, but it will be soon.
Okay, so they've actually got that's interesting because I think I'm actually using a few different versions than that and it's working. I should probably go through and change them. But anyway. Oh, and then you can say skip the validation.
Yeah, you can override it so that it doesn't. But eventually it's going to be there'll become errors, and then you'll have to skip them if you don't want to change.
Policy was discussed in associated design. I think this is brilliant. like the problem here is always, so for those that don't know, these are the various build tools you're going to use when building an Android app. And you've got to get the right incantation of the right versions of these things working in combination together to get your Android app to compile.
Which can be a major pain. Major pain.
For those that don't know, AGP is Android Gradle plugin. That's the plugin that links that is used by Gradle to build an Android app. So that's the bit that's made by Google. Gradle is an external supplier, like package a standard build system. You might have heard of. What's the other one? Bazel and a few others. The Gradle is a meta build system. So I believe. I know Bazel is. Anyway, and then Java, obviously, Kotlin are the languages that built into Java bytecode that is then interpreted by the build system to build Dex code. Anyway, right, back to where we are. Major next releases will come errors, but right now it could be overridden with this flag. Okay, but if you want results, they'll get results. Okay, so support for different versions.
Kotlin DSL, basically, instead of Groovy, you can do your Gradle in Kotlin. DSL.
See, I'll be honest with you, I don't like either.
Yeah.
All right, autocomplete. Okay, so this allows for better code editing, like autocomplete, quick access to documentation. Okay, I could see the preference of using the Kotlin one over that.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. I'll give it a go. Right. I didn't particularly like Groovy, to be fair. It's like what was it? Groovy has this thing of going, oh, you can use Java anywhere you want. So it's like, like what? Like, I get it, but it's like it was. Just like, well, then just use Java, right? Like at some point, I'm like, be this or be that, but don't try and be both, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sure it did help in the long term. It's just so confusing. This initial support was contributed by Bartek. Yay, Bartek. So Bartek is from Lean Code, isn't he? Oh no, wait, maybe not. Maybe it's a different person. I may have mistaken you. Sorry, Bartek. No, this is the one. I don't know. I'm confused. Maybe. Going back. Can now choose to rewrite the code to grow scripts. Advantage and benefits. Although the Flutter tool does not yet allow for selecting Kotlin over Groovy when using Flutter Create. Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
So you would have to rewrite your Gradle scripts in Kotlin to actually continue to
you want to use
that.
It.
That kind of sucks.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's actually there must have a. There's no way this landed without having like another sample.
Yeah.
I would have pointed to that sample in here. Maybe the PR points to it because. Well, there's got to be a link in there's got to be a reference to this somewhere, but I'm not going to go hunting right now.
Yeah.
All right, platform views. We've been talking a long time. Sorry, everyone, but we'll get to questions in just a second. I think we'll try and get quicker. Sorry.
Yeah, this is just about improvement.
How many people finding this interesting? By the way, like we're not here just. Please let us know if you're not. And I don't know.
I've seen a few comments
either way.
About, I missed that. So yeah.
Platform views improvements. A heads up to all Flutter app developers. If you're using Flutter to build apps that rely on native Android components like maps, web views, send UI elements, we have some important news. Due to a bug in Android 14, apps built with older versions of Flutter might not work properly on devices that are running this newer version. Interesting. Okay. Flutter 3.22 fixes this issue and improves the overall performance of these native components in your Android apps. So to ensure your app runs smoothly in all Android devices, make sure you rebuild and release your app with Flutter 3.2. That's very important. That's a great heads up.
Yeah.
This update includes behind-the-scenes improvements to make platform views on Android more reliable and performant overall.
Yep.
Okay. I want to know what. Link me to a PR.
Yeah, they didn't link to what in this. Yeah. So we have to go digging. No more KitKat.
Flutter's minimum support is now Lollipop.
Yeah.
Anyway, Flutter's minimum support Android is now Lollipop. Beginning with Flutter 3.22 stable, no longer work on 19. I completely get, like, I don't even know who would put the API level less than 21 now.
Yeah,
Like, I haven't done that in years.
no.
Well,
I don't think the store does the store even let you set it lower?
No. So it does. You have to target higher, but your minimum, minimum has to be a different level. So, anyway, iOS platform view performance.
Basically, they improve performance on iOS as well for platform views.
Reduce GPU overhead, reduced by 50%. Wow.
Yeah.
Less, obviously, power consumption, smoother experience. Frame rendering on average have decreased.
No more, getting rid of more
minimizing jank. Yeah. The other thing to say here is, like, like they talk about this, it's like, okay, it looks like a small number, but as we said earlier, if it's 8 milliseconds for the entire frame, that's a huge win.
Yep.
If you previously experienced performance challenges when using multiple platform views like ads and maps within scrolling views, these optimizations offer the potential for a more fluid and responsive scrolling experience. Yep. Give it a try and tell us what you think. Okay, cool. Look, before, after. I mean, like,
yeah.
Frame times. Yeah. For this is a good example here of, this is what you expect on average, right? Which is fine. But it's these 90th and 99th percentiles and worst frames that this is when you get these, 1 in 90, 1 in 99, 1 in 100 chance of getting a jank frame and just ruining the whole experience, and your 60 FPS. Yeah. So,
yep. And then just ecosystem stuff. Yeah.
Vertex AI. Okay. App checks. Yeah.
Dart
DevTools. I think we got through
DevTools.
Extensions.
I think there's something about the ads SDK was updated, and a couple things there, different things here and there.
Oh, this is interesting. DevTools extensions and DevTools app shared packages that support DevTools extension authors. We added support for connecting an extension to the new Dart tooling daemon, which allows DevTools extensions to access public methods registered by other DTD clients, such as an IDE, as well as allowing access to minimal file system API for interacting with a development project. Okay, so that really does expand what you can do with the Dart DevTools extensions.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, we're just talking about, like, a good example of extension is the deep link checker. That thing that goes as an extra tab inside the Dart DevTools that you can. So if you honestly, here's an example. If you've got a large Flutter project or you're trying to debug your Flutter app, you can make an extension that sits inside DevTools that shows all the debug information about your app running, and how many connections to the server it has, when it most recently connected, all the other stuff, and that can all be presented in the Dart DevTools. It's really interesting. Like there's a like I've done it before in applications where literally would have like a tab that you pull out from the side of the screen. So when you're building a debug, you get a tab you can pull out, and it has like all the metadata and information about the version, what's running right now, and all the stats, so that you can see how the app is performing in real time. It's not very convenient to have that on your mobile screen. If you've got a desktop browser kind of experience to access all that information, scrolls and expanding things and trees of information, so much better. All right. Cool. Google Mobile as SDK. Yeah, fine. Universal messaging platform, mediation partners. I mean, this is great news for those that use ads, like, to support all these extra providers. Nothing that I'm too interested in, but the big thing about this is you couldn't take advantage of ad. So the big thing about ads, so this is the thing, is that if you use platform views in Flutter, because Flutter captures the native view and then displays its own rendering, and then when you tap on it, it fakes the tap back to the native platform view, essentially, right? Yeah. So because it separates that off, it's like you're faking tapping on an ad, which can be seen as spamming the ad company and trying to get clicks for free, money. So they don't like that, and they will ban you and they'll cancel your accounts.
Yeah.
So it's very critical that you get first-party uptake of these, and these mediation partners have first-party with Flutter, because it means that we can actually support ads without the concern of that being a problem. Right?
Yep.
So I do get how important this is, but equally, I don't care about ads. So moving on.
And then there's just a couple breaking changes that they talk through.
sure, V1 Android embedding is already actually
it's been for a long time.
Yeah. Need to migrate. Sure.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you remember the V1 API?
It was so
with a
long
static register with. Blimey, I forgot about that. Yeah. They'll be fully deleting Android V1 in next release. So, yeah.
If you haven't moved for some reason, you need to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, if you did support the new one, remove the V1 code that you've got because it's going to be useless after this. Right, yeah. Deprecations removed in 3.22. Breaking changes in this release after 3.19 to see all affected APIs along with additional migration guides. See the deprecation guide for this release. Many of these things use Flutter Fix to fix it for quick fix and ID, bulk fixes with Dart Fix. Contributing tests from the community and identifying these breaking changes.
And that's it.
And in conclusion, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's even better.
That's I don't know. I mean, I think we'll get to questions now because I think we definitely queued up long enough, and we can go through some more of this and maybe do some bug hunting if people are interested. Maybe we'll come back to breaking changes and things and maybe have a look at that afterwards.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to go back to the very beginning of the list. So let's bring up the first question. Is a gist.
All right.
By our very own Yazin. So I saw this being brought up. I have not looked at it. Let me just take a quick, before I bring up a stream, let me take a quick look at it. Just make sure we're good. This isn't about you, Yasim. I know you're a long-term viewer, but I've told we need to be cautious about these things. So yeah, so nice and simple. Let's bring it up on stream.
All right.
Let's make it bigger.
See what we got.
So doubt to be present on Humpday. Oh, well, you're here. I hope you're here.
Yeah.
I hope we didn't miss you and you're still around.
Yep. 2 questions about opinion fact, he says.
Okay.
All right. So question 1, on Flutter, we can create a method inside the build method, but we can't create a getter.
Yes, because a getter is not a method per se.
Right.
And let's have a, sorry, bear with me. I'm just adjusting things, hoping to adjust things. There we go. If I can make this, I don't know if that's better or worse for people, but hopefully that's sorry, just adjusting things. I'm one person today. I don't have the command of other people here. Right. I've lost the button. There he is. That's better. Is that better? Probably better. Yeah. All right. So question 1. I can create a method inside build method. Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then question 2, opinion on routing like this. So,
yeah, I mean, again, so get us to defined at a class level, and you're in a method. Right. The only time you can put a method inside a method is a method. That's it. That's our function inside a function is a function. That's just the language. I'm not sure. But why can't? That's the language. That's how it works.
It's just
and to be honest, I mean, at this point, why not just have a variable or a function that returns a variable and then put it into? So a getter. I tell you what you could do. Actually, saying this, I just thought something. Let's take this example and run with it a bit, shall we? Hang on.
You can do open a Dart pad.
That's, well, something like that. That's a good idea, actually. No, you know what? I'm not going to do a Dart pad because it's going to be painful. Let's just do a quick example here. Bear with. And see if I can present that. If I can figure out how. The world is against me right now. Okay. Oh, well, close enough. Right, let's make it bigger. So yeah, this is a copy of that code. So I mean, what you can do in this case here is, you know, I mean, I'm assuming this value 1, you want to make a getter because it's dynamic in nature. You want to get it from somewhere. So you could obviously just do a. I know it sounds silly, but you know what you're asking for here is basically saying you want a function called bar. This is the same as doing this.
Yeah.
Right. You've made a function called bar, and
it turns 1.
A getter is just without the brackets.
Yeah. Yep.
Just do that. And then this 1 can come from somewhere else if you want to, some calculation or calling some other functions. It's just a function like anything else, and it'll work just fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, the bit you're missing here is, yes, a getter can't be done, but what is a getter? That is just a function, right? So again, you're just removing the get and putting brackets on it. That's it. You've achieved the same thing. Like, I don't see any reason why a getter, the whole idea of having a getter like that is, yeah, it's particularly around the fact that you're trying to override something normally that is a variable or that kind of thing. Like, there's more to it than just I'm trying to provide this value. I don't know. Tell us what you think. Right. What was next on here?
With the navigation, doing it like having a method to
navigate.
This.
Well, I would spell it navigate. No,
well, yeah.
But I actually prefer it slightly different way. In fact, my very first Flutter talk, I talked about how I do this, right? So I'm going to show you another example briefly. Let's go back to the other screen. Sorry, I can't share both. It's annoying. I can share the entire screen, I guess.
Yeah, man, you did. That was a talk a long time ago on Navigator.
Do you remember my Navigator 1?
Yeah.
So in this case, what I would do is not pass in the context. I mean, this is not navigating. This is running whatever it is. This might be like show pop-up, right? So that is something that is not necessarily navigation. I mean, this is fine. Like, it all depends on what you're using. To be honest, I would say it depends on what you're using your widget for. Oh, sorry, I thought I showed my screen.
Yeah. There we go.
So yeah, sorry, I thought I was showing it. There you go. Idiot me. Right, there you go. Right. So that's what we had, and I'm just saying that yes, this is fine. Right. At the end of the day, there's no difference here to doing something else. I would probably, you know, I mean, to be honest, what I tend to do is how you're navigating. So this navigator what you'll find is, oh, I want to use the root navigator. I want to do this. I want to do that. And before you know it, you're passing lots of parameters in. Like, this is the only thing that you're actually sort of you're gaining. If this was like a dialogue or something, I would probably do it like this, right? So this is like show dialogue or show pop-up, right? And you're giving it context and you're getting the result, or maybe ask user, I don't know, user display, user confirmation, I don't know, right? And you're building in a bunch of you're getting true or false back, and then your widget displays a dialogue and we hit yes or no. It does just navigate.pop, whatever, right? Yes, sure, fine, why not? I do tend to like doing this though, where I do a route, in this case a route ball, and I make a static method in my widget, and this is the thing that actually returns back the route.
Yeah.
And what this means is the definition of how a route, is constructed is essentially declared as part of the actual screen. So in this case, this might be like, I don't know, screen, I don't know, edit screen. Yeah. Right. So this also keeps the constructor private, so that what you're saying here in doing this, sorry, I'll come back to the bottom bit in a minute, right? What we're saying here is saying, okay, the only way that you can get to display an edit screen, because it's got a private constructor, is using a route, because that's the only thing that calls it, right? So outside of this file, outside this library, you're not going to be able to accessing this edit screen constructor. That means from the outside, if you want to show this, you could say something like your static ball here, right? You could then do. Let's bring this up to the top here for a second. You could then do something like show edit screen context, right? And then what you're doing is doing navigate of push context.
Edit screen row. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And to me, that makes more sense. But I'll be honest with you, this is just a function in another thing, right? In another part of your app, because the way that you actually take that route and implement it is the context that you're in. So I would not probably put this within this widget here. The only exception that I did it on is if, as I said, if it's like if it's not a primary route, if it's not a primary flow, it's secondary, so it sits on top, so like a dialogue or a pop-up or something like that, right? And that I feel is small enough to include. But again, it's semantics. Like, do whatever you want. It's just preference at that point. Like, functionally, it's the same, right? It's just about how like you want to architect it, right? All right. What else do we have? There was a third part of this. Why not? Let's go on. I like this. This is fun. Right. Okay, so that was the routes, the getters. Oh, I think this is just an example, another example of.
Yeah, that was just another example. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, then that's it. That's that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. Hopefully that helped.
Yep. This is okay. Thanks. So I think we're good.
Wonderful. Excellent.
Next question.
I did my job. Yes. Next question. Let's do it.
What do we got?
I can find the questions. Bear with me, everyone.
They're in a list someplace.
What am I doing? Where am I? Who are you? Right. Here we go. Paco asks, how did you feel about macros? JSON Codable is neat, but what are those prefix 0 objects in the example?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be great. There's a lot you can do with them. Actually, let me see if I can find it.
I did open it up. I can probably bring it up.
Okay.
This is the
Codable.
This is the page, macros experimental. For those that haven't seen it, I'll pop it in the chat here.
Yeah.
I think is there an example here of the output. It's showing you how you can view the generate code in the example here.
Mm-hmm.
Are they on the right hand side? There you go. Yeah, so this is, you can see here, like, as prefix 0 is Dart core. Basically, they just, so I can tell you exactly what this is about, Paco, and why it's been done. And this is more about the fact that if your generate code depends on multiple packages, it imports them in, and it's going to give them a different alias. So there's no chance of them having a naming collision. So it just prefixes everything. Problem solved. And that's it. That's, I think, it was what it comes down to. So this could be called core, which is probably what I'd prefer to call it. In this case, Dart core is core rather than prefix 0. But yeah, they probably just number them, name them, and number them.
Yeah.
But I mean, it does generate code. I mean, the idea is that you don't even look at the generate code. That's the key, right? I really need to look at macros. Yeah. Not right now, though. Let's see what.
Yeah.
Hope that helps, Paco. All right. Do you want to read off the questions?
Yeah, Fun to Code says access app files, SQLite, for example, on device for DevTools, eval on library plus instance ref. How to get?
You hear me still?
Yep.
Bear with.
Did you lose us? You lost your speakers.
There we go. I hear you now.
Okay, you hear.
Sorry.
Okay. No, so accessing the app files. So in other words, like SQLite on device for the DevTools, is that possible? And then question 2 is eval on library plus instance ref. How do you get the values? It's struggling.
I mean, access app files on device for DevTools. Oh, you mean like on your
Like
local
showing
machine you want to
something,
access?
Yeah, so I think the idea here is SQLite. So it's like maybe showing
Yeah.
the table in DevTools from the table that's sitting on your phone while you're running or on the emulator. I guess.
I'm not sure you can do with the DevTools extensions if I'm talking about. If you're building your own DevTools locally on your machine, you can definitely do that.
Yeah.
Because I mean that's a standard Android. So I think if you're looking for that, so Android has a way of doing run as and so it's ADB run as, ADB pull, ADB push. This allows you to capture files from the device, push them, and then you can do that as a user. And each application has a user attached to it. A user is a like ID. It's a user ID, which is a grouping of user of the device and installation of the app has a unique ID attached to it, which is the UID. But there's lots of documentation about how to do that on Android, right? How to pull that stuff down. Eval and library and instance ref. I'm not sure what you mean by that. I've got no picture of reference here.
No, I think you mean more info.
So if you'll give us more information, fun to code, we'll have to answer them.
Yep.
All
right. Madonna is saying I've integrated deep link and app links. I've tested with the simulator and emulator. It's working fine, but when I try to launch the app link with the URL launcher on a real iOS device, it's not working.
Okay, I know exactly what your problem is. And it's iOS. Try it on Android and tell me if it's working. That's the first thing. But I'll be honest with you, I had this problem for a long time, and it's because there's a hidden flag you have to send with your launching of I can't for the life of me remember what it was, to have for iOS to try and launch as an app link. I think they might have put this in your old launcher now when you do launch mode. Let me go see if it's in there. I honestly I can't remember. I think it's in there now. Let's have a look. See if we can bring it up. Am I sharing something? I don't know. I think I am. Here we go. So let me hide the question there. So yeah, Euro launcher. When you launch a URL, you can specify a mode, I believe now.
Supports launch mode. Or launch mode, yeah.
And external application.
Yeah.
There you go. And that'll tell it to treat it as a app link. For a while, I'm not sure that's going to work. I'll be honest with you. I haven't looked at the underlying thing because the flag that I remember I had to specify when doing this was a long time ago. I had to go dig it out. I can't do that right now. But it was like just like a different integer number that you specified that was not completely undocumented by Apple. So whether or not that's been implemented by the Euro launcher, I don't know, but maybe. All right. Was that the whole thing? Hopefully that helps.
All right. So, hi, how does the latest Wasm update impact startup time of Flutter Web?
I think we saw 2x improvement from
like
that. I think
it was a big improvement. Yeah.
It's going to be improved. There you go. So normally I suspect your output would be a lot smaller. I mean, it's hard to gauge these things, right? Because maybe something that's a simple few bytes in JavaScript, maybe more instructions in Wasm. But for the most part, I suspect on average, you'd find smaller files from Wasm than you would do on JavaScript. So a smaller download, which means faster startup time. But equally, when it runs, you're going to find frame times are quicker because it renders quicker because the Wasm code runs faster. Because it doesn't have to be interpreted by the browser.
Yeah. Yep. And I think might have been asked before we went through the what's new. So some of that. Yeah. Panda Podcast. Hi, I want to get Stream SDK to develop. So I want to use GetStream SDK to develop part of the live streaming app I'm working on now. Given that their SDK only supports Android and iOS, how can I use their API to create a web app in Flutter?
I mean, that's okay. So you're falling on the problem here of oh, sorry. Of vendor lock-in, right? Like you can do it. You can do it. Use your code. They use federated plugins. You can go implement your own web-based version of the Stream SDK.
Yeah.
And then you have to invent your own backend to support that.
Right.
Then you might as well not bother using Stream. Right? I don't know if Stream supports web or if they already, maybe it's a JavaScript.
Or if they have plans. Yeah, I don't know.
Or if they have plans. The best person I say that. You should reach out to Nash.
Yep.
I'm just throwing Nash under the bus there. So Nash, I'll get his Twitter.
Yeah, so Nash, if you're not familiar, Nash has been part of the community. He actually is the lead
Director?
Director of developer relations or something like that at Stream.
Dev marketing at Stream. Basically the same thing. Yeah.
But yeah, so you could try and ping him on Twitter or
his Twitter is in the chat.
There you go.
And just tweet him. I'm sure he'll be.
He is at I/O, so he may not respond right away.
Yeah, he may not return a minute because he's at the event right now. But I think so. So here's the thing, right? You want to do live streaming. Is it around what? I mean, I'm kind of curious if you're still around the Paddy podcast. What part of it are you actually interested in from GetStream? Like, there's quite a wide variety of options there. I'm really curious because I've been doing a lot of real-time stuff recently, and I'm actually going to be working on a talk for around this. And I'm kind of curious, what is it that you use? And maybe I can suggest a way of tackling it that doesn't involve that supports the platforms you're looking at. There you go. All right, I guess next question.
Are we going to have Wasm on this version?
Yes, we just saw that.
Yeah, I think that's before we read it. Yep. I've created a Flutter app. Inside, I'm using Flutter web app. Any better approach for communication from Flutter web app to Flutter app? Better than what? What are you using?
Anyway, I've created a Flutter app. Inside I'm using a Flutter web app. Oh,
so it's like app inside of an app.
All right. Okay. My brain. Okay. So you're making a hybrid. So I think, Madan, you need to explain a bit more succinctly what you're doing, because I don't want to get it wrong to give you the wrong answer, right? So first of all, from what I understand, you're doing a hybrid, what's called a hybrid web app, which is it's a native app on the outside, and you've got some content that's in your app that is web-based, and you're using Flutter Web to generate that content. I mean, I don't know why I ever want to do that.
Yeah,
I'll be honest with you. It just doesn't seem practical. Maybe you can elaborate as to, you're saying any better way of communication from Flutter Web app to Flutter app is just, if you're doing that, it's the JavaScript channel.
Right.
That's the web.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering if that's what you mean. Is there a better way than doing that? Homepage only web app. Homepage only.
Right. You cannot. I see. I
mean, I could see, like, if you had, let's say you had multiple apps that were primarily meant to be web apps, right? So you had, and then you were creating an app to be like
what I read from homepage only web app, and again, we're trying to read into this, so maybe you can explain a bit more. But from what I get from that is like only the homepage of the app is a web app. Right, so maybe it's more like the news or the about screen. You know what I mean? Like the current feed that's coming from web. The answer is I wouldn't do that.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Like it's just not a good idea to mix those. If you're trying to get around the fact that you've got this content in web, have the server output it as JSON as something else and render it in your Flutter app. It's just not worth it. The amount of hassle and communication, the amount and everything else, the amount of
you're doing a lot more work
to make chat here, and a lot of work, and the bugs that you can get from that. I'm just like, it's literally so much easier to have your server have a PHP or whatever it is, even if it's WordPress, it has a JSON RPC API. Just use that. Output the stuff ready for the app and just consume the app and do some widgets in the app. If you're doing a Flutter web app, then you've already got the Flutter Dart code. Just stick that in your app. I mean, there's no good way of communicating. In other words, that's not going to be simple to do and debug, because to debug you have to debug a Chrome. Whether you can do debug Chrome, there's a Chrome debug web tabs or whatever it's inspector. That basically means that you can actually on your desktop computer debug a web view running on your mobile device, right? In developer mode, you can do that. And it does like some internal networking traffic, and you might need to unblock your firewall or something. But the point is, you can do it and it works. But yeah, I mean, it feels like you're giving yourself headaches for no reason.
Yeah.
All right, I guess we'll move on. I had something highlighted here, but actually it's the same as
that was. We already went through that one. Yeah. Are we going to have a live coding on Wasm? Maybe.
We can do that. I mean, if people are interested in Wasm, we can definitely do that. Probably not today.
Maybe we could see if Danielle's looked at that, and we could do something next week.
That might be good. Yeah.
She's our resident web person. All right. So Giles says, feels like macros will be even more better than Kotlin data classes as we can customize, right? Does that mean we will not need to stateful widgets too? I mean, verbose approach. Does that mean we will not need to stateful widgets too? I mean,
I'm just seeing if there's any other questions to.
Yeah.
I mean, feel free to post your questions, everyone. Put a key in front, and we'll get to them. Otherwise, we can move on with stuff. All right, let's get back to that. Sorry, what was that question? I didn't. It was macros in data classes. Does that mean we don't need stateful widgets too? I mean, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the second sentence is.
I don't know how stateful widgets has any relationship to macros.
Right.
I mean, you can. Sorry, the overlap here I'm curious where you see the use case.
Yeah, maybe the understanding of macros
generate widget. I don't see the reason why you couldn't generate widget classes using macros.
Sure. Yeah.
But I'm not sure, no need for stateful widgets. What's the problem with needing stateful widgets in the first place?
Yeah. I mean, the point of the macro, right, is to eliminate some code and have it do stuff that's kind of like boilerplate repeatable, right? For the most part.
Yeah, no, I just think it's funny. This feels like to me like it's that whole problem that we had before. It's like I want to build my entire app out of stateless widgets. I don't want to ever use stateful widgets. I'm like, but why?
Well, if you need to use them.
I don't. Yeah. For what reason would you it? Doesn't. You don't get anything from that. This whole idea of moving state into your. I think there's a problem here is about misunderstanding what the state means, right? Like a simple variable in a function is state.
Yep.
Right. You have a variable, that's state. A variable in any class is state. It's the idea is it's the running memory of your application. That is its state. This set of variables with these values makes your app be the current state it is.
Yeah.
Right. That's state in a nutshell. Now we name that state ephemeral state if it's always going to be changing. It's only for what's being used right now. And we have app state, which is a name given for more long-term state that sticks around that you can reuse to regenerate all your widgets.
Yep.
So yeah, the fact that you would want to get rid of stateful widgets means, I mean, that means nothing. It doesn't make any sense to me because you use stateful widgets to hold that ephemeral state in the widgets themselves, and that's the purpose of it. That's why it's there.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. If you can elaborate a bit more, then we can maybe get to that a bit more. All right.
Funny code. So back to the DevTool extension. He's developing one for displaying all the files that are being created by the app. What would be the approach you recommend?
So it's interesting. And I think you've just run into the one thing that you're going to have a problem with.
Yeah.
So let me explain. So your Dart DevTool runs in a browser. A browser does not have access to the file system. It does not have access to anything from the computer apart from the API, the web API given to the browser. right? You'll find that under the Mozilla Developer Network, MDN Web API. So, in short, this means that you want to list these files. It has to come across like a local socket, or you have to have other code running outside your browser to get to that file. You can do it, but what I'm trying to say is you have to, in your DevTools extension, you have to say, oh, you need to like pub global activate this other code, right? Then you can do that. Then what you can do, so you could write a little Dart file, right? As part of it'd be part of your DevTools or whatever, but you have to run it separately, and that can then stay running. And what its job is to monitor ADB and the files on the device, and then output like JSON over a local socket, web socket, and then your DevTools extension can then read that local connection to actually retrieve the data, because the browser itself and the DevTools don't have access to that data. And that's what was said in the article that we just read about the Flutter features. They're saying now you can access more things from the Flutter daemon, the developer daemon, and you can also access the files of the project, right? That means the code base. It does not mean you can access any file on the computer or run any command. And basically, to do what you're trying to do, you have to be able to run commands. You have to be able to access the Android debug bridge, ADB.
Yeah.
So,
what about like if you're creating files in your directory for your app,
yeah,
would you not be able to just use that somehow in the DevTools? You can't?
no,
You
because the
can't
DevTools
just
themselves are
access-
running on your machine. They're not running on the device. They're nothing to do with the app.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, you have access. I mean, here's the thing: you could ship something in the app. I guess the other option is that you ship something in the app and then you're retrieving that through the DevTools connection to the app. I mean, that's another possibility.
Well, yeah.
I mean, that revolves around
the
problem with doing it that way is if the app is hit a break point or anything else, it's just no longer responding, right? So
yeah. It just seems like that's something the DevTools would expose. It would seem like a common.
The Android tools do already.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that, you're right. That is, I think there is definitely room for this fun to code. I think you should be reaching out to, if you go look at the release notes we just looked at, the Flutter 3.22 release notes, there's a bit on there about feedback around their the DevTools. Yeah. I really should just reach out and make an issue ticket, explain what you're trying to do, and that would be really good for the DevTools to be able to access the files of the application.
Yeah, it wouldn't seem like that would be that hard. I mean, they know where they exist. They know, especially in the emulator running locally, but even so, on device, whatever, it should be something they could expose a list of files and,
I mean, that's the other option. Fun. I mean, maybe fun to code. This is a bit, maybe, I don't know if you're interested in doing this. Start that conversation off with them. Ask them for hints on what you need to change and when you need to change it, and go edit it yourself. Submit a PR and get your name on the Flutter repository.
Yep.
Right. It may seem a bit daunting at first or long term, but then you're learning something, right? That's the key thing here. Learn something.
Yep.
All right. Right. Yeah, we just see the URLs. I'd love to see a live coding session about text editing Delta class. Is it possible in the future? Maybe it's a new subject, but in my opinion, Flutter lacks proper rich text editor. I mean, yes and no. It has that. So yes, I could do that. I don't see a reason why I would want to, though. You say Flutter doesn't have it. There's a great one.
Yes.
Super editor. This is the one you're missing. And here it is here. So, yeah. Super editor. 11 months ago. Oh, it has analysis issue.
Yeah, I was going to say what.
But yeah, this is a rich text editor that can be used on all the platforms. Well, most of them. Still a bit spotty on Windows and Linux. And yeah, this allows for rich text editing and some other things. But yeah, that's the one I would recommend. And that supports deltas, by the way. I'm pretty sure it supports deltas, because that was a whole topic that we came and speaking about at one point.
Yeah, it's a super list, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, I would say that's something I'd look at. Okay, let's take. So I think I want to look at this bug, and I think people find this bug interesting with list view and think it's something we should look at. Yeah, I really do think people find this interesting. So I think what we'll do.
There's the link.
You found the link?
Yeah, he sent it to us. He sent it to us in the Slack.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Okay.
Cutting the stateful boilerplate. Yes.
Yep. So I don't know if you want to bring it up or not, but
should we have? I can bring it up. I'll tell
you
what. You share it. You share it.
I can. Yeah, let me see
if you can do that, and then because I want to just take 5, and then
present. Share screen. Yeah. So let me.
So this was in relation to the stateful widget piece with macros.
Correct. Yeah. Share screen. I can do a window. So let's just do that and share that.
You ready for that to come up?
Yeah, go ahead.
You might need to zoom in.
I might need to make that a little bit bigger. How's that? There we go.
I'll do it that way. There you
go. All right.
Bigger.
Does StreamYard have an option to put the pictures on the right side?
No, I can do some custom stuff.
Well, because the right side would make more sense, because like when we're looking at code and stuff, putting it on the right-hand side would block less code and less screen.
Yeah, true.
Anyway.
I may do some. Oh, sorry, I'm pressing the wrong buttons now. I will see if I can do a custom layout for that. I didn't figure I had to delete layouts that I make by mistake. So,
so let's take a look at the proposal. Cutting the stateful boilerplate. All right.
I see what they're saying now. As soon as he said that, I mean, to me, that's like, okay, you know the way you have like create state and a few of the other bits of boilerplate around create a stateful widget.
Yes.
Well, you just create a widget that's stateful. You put your build method and your other bits inside the main widget, and then it will link them together. We did this before quite some time ago. This is like not necessarily a new concept, but let's have a look. Let's have a look. What's it say? What does it show?
Okay, so what are we doing here? So basically creating where's the, it's up here. So this is our normal stuff, right? So we create a stateful widget, we get the stateful.
And can you press the arrow on the top right to hide the menu at the top?
The arrow on the top. Oh yeah, we can hide the menu, and you know what? We could probably even hide the comments. And that would make it.
I don't know how you do that.
I don't know how we do that.
I mean, the top right, the comments little icon. No, further right.
This one.
Yeah, I wonder if that's
viewing
mode.
There we go.
I think if you press if you like a full screen button, like.
Yep. We can probably do that too. So is it F11 usually? Yep. There we go.
Yeah, look at that. Even more screen. Like.
Yeah. All right, so let's go down. So yeah, so this should look familiar to everybody, right? It's just our normal stateful widget with our counter being declared, and then the counter state, and then you just get the typical. That's the old floating action. That's kind of with all the comments removed and all that fun stuff. So immutable configuration, yeah, it's short-lived. Blah blah blah. So it's thrown away, and the new one with the different arguments created. Okay, instead of imperatively mutating what is shown on the screen is when we do intrusive an immutable
it's just talking about how it works.
Yeah.
Currently.
So, and I'm just
it's all about how it works currently. So move on.
All right. So here's the proposal, right? How it would work. So you just mark it as stateless, and you have
a class is stateless with an input.
Then you mark your inputs as what you're getting in. And that's it. And then you just have your.
There's going to generate a widget called like app widget or something, right?
Yes.
So it's going to generate a new class,
Yep.
And then it's going to hook it up the
So
boilerplate.
it's going to create it's basically going to create the stateless widget.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't have to have all that extra stuff. And then same thing down here. So now here we're calling counter, right? And adding that widget. So here we mark it as a stateful widget. And we do the same thing. We mark our inputs. We can do an assert. We can have another input. So these are different constructors, right? We're getting, are they?
No, I think these are just basically, it's going to take all the at inputs and make a constructor that contains them all, right?
Yeah.
I mean, does it actually show you the code generated? Like what it expects?
Yeah, generated code. Here we go. For the example above, the macro would generate the following private stateful widget subclass. So stateful widget that implements counter. And there's the two values.
No, I see what they're doing. Oh, they're sneaky. Okay, so look, class counter, right, is not a widget.
Yeah.
It's an interface. Then if you add a constructor to counter that returns back a implementation. Yeah. So counter widget is the implementation of counter, but is a stateful widget.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Yeah, okay, that's nice. I like that.
Yeah, so basically it does what, you
was expected.
It would do, right? You've got your values, they're coming in. It creates the state, which is just calling the private constructor.
They've added a no such method just as a catch-all. Yeah.
Next,
the augment class.
Yeah, counter to fill the missing functionality. Counter. So it augments counter.
Wow. Okay, I did not.
Sending it with implementing stateful widget.
Yeah. Okay. Look. So this is what I just said. That's really interesting. So look, class counter has been augmented to extend state counter and implement stateful widget.
Yeah.
Oh wait. Oh my gosh, that's just head mind blowing. Okay, get this. It's the state class implements stateful widget.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you could do that, right? But my brain just like took a fart then. And then look, the underscore counter widget is the constant factor constructor, as I was saying. So that's your concrete implementation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, look, you could do all this stuff. I don't see any reason. Like, I'll be honest with you. I think this is like this is the kind of power that we want to see from macros, right?
Yeah.
I think that the problem here is it's very much like in my eyes that it's again, no amount of source code you write is less.
Yeah.
Because you're doing more code generation. That's what you want. That's the whole point of code generation, to get rid of that boilerplate. It's the reason why we have code generation right now. So yes, I think though that your problem here is you need to understand what it's doing under the hood, right? So you don't take, like, if this was to become the de facto standard, I would be upset.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that's the right thing, but what I mean is it's more about the fact that you might as well not have written the original code the way it is. You might as well just do it in a new mechanism that doesn't require the boilerplate, right? Right. It's that kind of thing, right? Because at the end of the day is people then start learning the code generated technique, which is fine, and not understand what's doing under the hood.
Yeah, but you know what this is sounding a lot like.
Go on. Oh, no.
The thing we don't talk about.
Yeah, the words we don't say. For those that, what we'll say, GetX. Oh.
Yes.
But anyway, no, this is a library in the ecosystem, and frankly, it's not all that bad. But the problem here is it's a library that chucks everything within itself, which means
you're kind of getting into that same realm, right? It's like with one of the biggest problems with that package is that it's doing so much for you and hiding so much stuff and doing things that if you don't truly understand how it's working under the covers, it can lead to other issues. You have the same problem here.
And it's not just that. You end up with this idea of you move away from it you can't move away from it because you just don't know how it works, something like that.
Right.
Or it's so ingrained in what you're doing. If every widget was like that,
yeah,
you know, code generation breaks every entire. I don't know. I get it and I don't get it at the same time.
Yeah.
But it's more about, to me, it's more about the learning experience from a developer, right? So a new developer is going to come along. This is fine if you're trying to augment, maybe generating a bunch of widgets, right? I can see that being a bonus. Let's say you need to generate 20 different widgets of slightly varying degrees, and the code has to be generated. Then yeah, perfectly do this, right? Like generate all those things with different inputs. Yeah, I think it's probably all spoken about in these different points. I will just take 5 and then I will be back. You can carry on if you want, John, for just for a second. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, this is just going through, you know, some of the points that they're making here about, you know, benefits of it, right? So we can see here less boilerplate code. We've already talked about that. You're saving, just in that one example, a couple hundred lines of code, or 10 lines of code, but lots of characters, saving a class. Navigation for non-IDE navigation, so you don't have to reference, you know, classes all over the place, magical classes, like the state and stuff. It's just there. Let's see, what else are they talking about? Code navigation reading, right? So when you see this in your code and you click through, it'll send you to the macro generated, which isn't helpful. So ideally, we'd want to send it to the actual developer defined class. So there's some things there that would need to be done. Let's see, refactoring between stateless and stateful. Starting with stateless widget, but realize you need it now. Easy, just replace stateless with stateful. Yep, and you're good to go. So that does give you that benefit. Again, today it's not that hard to move between the two if you know what it's supposed to look like. But yeah, it's definitely easier to just replace that. Would be interesting to explore if a hypothetical @widget macro could automatically decide. Oh, interesting. So having it automatically decide if it needs to be stateful or not based on what's happening in the widget. Yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, you would have to know if there's any code in the class uses the state numbers like context and stuff. So you'd have to do some processing. Maybe it's probably possible with some work, but yeah, it probably needs more investigation there. State widget duality to make those work. The class that ends up being the state object for our widget actually pretends to conform to the widget interface, and the class that ends up being the stateful pretends to conform to the state protocol. Okay, purposely blurs the lines. It's not very surprising. Yep. Okay. It's just going through that. Okay, so here's some constructed cases that are statically okay, but would blow up at runtime. Yeah, so final state foo counter constructs the stateful widget. Yeah. So because we define this as a stateful widget, it's not, yeah, you're not getting the state. Yeah, okay. What about this one? Foo equals this isn't actually a widget. Yes. So this is not actually a widget in this case. Yeah. So there's some things that would have to be worked out. Yeah. Duality would be a problem. It would be okay today and then blow up at runtime if it was defined as a stateless. Yeah. Yeah. Actually saw it with extra annotations and special points. Yeah. Linting would help here to at least identify maybe. Documentation. Yeah. Widgets overall documentation go in stateful annotated class. Yeah. Input annotated. Okay. Nice. All right. State mixins. Since it's an annotated object, it actually turned into a real state object. All existing mixins on the state object. So if you had single ticker, continue to work and can be used. Yeah. So, yep. So you can just do the same thing here like you normally would. Autocomplete for IDEs to the widget state duality should be G4. And IDEs behave a little strange in edge cases. Okay, so there's some stuff that would have to be worked in there. Nice. Const constructible. Yep. Okay, if they're all constant, you can do that. So that continues to work. Lens we talked about, yeah, let's talk about earlier. And DevTools. There'd be some work there, yeah. All right. Auto conversion. Complete. I prefer having more control of what I write. Yeah. A lot of this right now. Yeah, it does. Involve some of this already. Yeah, and it does take some investigation to figure out what's really happening. This would add to that for sure. But I think this is one of those, if you understand, just like those, if once you understand what's going on, then it's pretty straightforward after that. But developers may accidentally use a incorrectly typed default value. Oh, yeah. So you'd have to somehow parse that out, that this is actually a string, not an int. Could probably get that with a lint. Similar issues for certs, yeah. Yeah, okay. Testing. Popular find by type wouldn't work anymore. True. Because it doesn't equal that superclass. Yep. In the example given. Yeah. The stateful widget is counter widget, which you want to keep private. We don't want to require developers to refer to it. They would just do find by type counter, which wouldn't work. So, yep. There's some work that would have to be done there. Some limitation, less common situations. All right, so where wouldn't this work? Custom logic in constructors. Yes, you can't put extra custom logic because it's a generator. So if you're trying to do computing a key from another input, or you're computing a property to store or anything like that, or any logic. So if you need a constructor that has logic in it, basically, this wouldn't work. Yeah. All right. So you'd have to go the old way. Or the current way, I should say. Multiple constructors. Yeah. You can't have multiple constructors. That would be an issue. Special occasionally, a stateful widget, stateless widget, or a state object requires a special base class. Currently not supported by macros. Okay. Could be modified to add a state or stateless widget as a default base class if they hasn't given the class annotation. It's a special base class. Okay. So essentially, it could be possible, but yeah, the way it is today, it's not. Yeah, we're just kind of. It's just talking about edge cases.
I just heard a little bit of that. Yeah, it does seem like I mean, there's always edge. I mean, obviously, this is what the document's about, the design document.
Yeah.
What is the potential of this? It's an interesting concept.
Yeah, there's definitely work that would need to be done to, hash it out, but it's interesting.
I'm not. Again, it's the concern I would have is the hiding of it.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, like we were talking about, there's, I mean, you have this today, right? I mean, in different places within Android or any development, there's some stuff that hides things from you that you eventually run into and have to go figure out. And so it's no different than that, but too much work for the benefits.
I'll be honest. I mean, what are we trying to save here? A few lines? I'm not I'm not convinced.
Yeah, I mean that simple example saved what? It saved like a couple of lines of code.
You save like maybe the create state class, building you don't even save the constructor because you have to pass those parameters on.
Yeah.
You have to declare them. No. I mean, okay, even if generous, still, it's not like I get it, but then why not make a widget or a class essentially that does that?
You could.
Do you see what I mean? And then make that part of the framework, right?
Yeah, you could.
Like,
yeah, I mean, that basic example saved you 10 lines of code. Well, it saved you 10 lines of code,
really,
but it's generating a bunch of it's generating.
It still generates the code. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
you
what
end
I'm
up with more code, more lines of code than you would have had by using a macro to do it.
It's yeah. Anyway, all right. Let's move on with our lives before we get brain dead. Right. So I was explaining that I think I might have found a bug in list view.
Yes. Yeah. You have
I
a bug.
think it might be fun for us to explore this.
Simon has bugs. We need to exterminate.
I have bugs. Lots and lots of bugs. Yeah, I should get a t-shirt. I see bugs everywhere. Remember that? Like, yeah. What was it? What was that? 6 Sense.
Yeah, I see dead people.
I
have one that the Azure team did. It says I see dev people. I wear that one.
Yeah. The puns.
Yes.
Right. So I'll make this bigger.
Like Jason's post, just writing STLFW gives the full template in VS Code. Yes, it does.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
It all for you.
I'm not sure what I'm saving here. I appreciate it, but then, like, if your problem is the way that you're trying to work around this and the platform, change the platform.
Yeah.
Or add another widget, like
well, is the goal to make it more readable?
Like,
is it?
Yeah.
I mean, it does make it a little more readable, but yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not convinced. Anyway, right. So this is just a little boilerplate thing. So we've got a blank app on the left here, which is what you see on the right. We've got material. What we're going to do is we're going to add a list view. And said list view is going to have some items. We have let's do list view builder. And we'll give it an item count of 100. And then the item builder gets given that index. And we're going to return back a aspect ratio. I can't remember what the numbers were now. We'll work it out. I think it's probably 0.5 actually. But anyway, and then inside that a placeholder. This will give us a series of boxes. We all like boxes. There we go. Got it right first time. How about that? So we'll have 100 boxes now going down the screen. Whoop-de-doo.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, what is it? I want you to make it const, probably, right?
Oh yeah. I'm not worried about that right now. Yeah. So now what I found, I was working on the code, and I was deleting items from a list, and I found out that all the items, that item and every item being passed that off to the bottom of the screen was getting rebuilt when they're keyed. I'm like, there's no reason for these widgets to be rebuilt. I don't get it. Like, and I was hunting around, like, is it something with my code? And I worked it out. It is list view. I don't know what inside list view is doing this or how it's come to pass. And hopefully I can replicate it now separately to the original, and then we can then see what's going on. So I think what we need is some data and then a way of managing that data and then a widget that represents it. So it should take too long. Just give me 2 seconds here. So I think we're going to be really simple and just say our data is a list of integers.
Okay.
We call it data. And our init state is going to generate said data. Actually, we can just do generate list list.generate 100 items of index, right? Nice and simple. So we'll get I make that late. All right, so now we have data. We can now put our length of data in here, and then our placeholder can have, say, a lighter stroke color. I mean, we do like a gray shades, I don't know, 200, and then the child is going to be text. That is data index to string. Right. And we'll set the style of that text. So let's see, and center it as well. And we'll set that text style to something on that 32.
Yeah.
All right. Restart. Okay. 0, 1, 2. Lovely. Simple.
Yep.
Okay. So now this is fine, but we need to have something that shows it loading or rebuilding the data in some way. We can do a bunch of print statements, I guess. It's not very scientific or helpful, really. What I'm going to do is take this content out of here. We're going to make a stateful widget called item. Item is going to contain that. And now I have widget.label. And we'll add a little label parameter in. I mean, I'm looking at the boilerplate here. This is what is the boilerplate? I get it. I don't like boilerplate like everyone else, right? But like equally, like it's not.
Yeah.
What you're actually saving. Okay, so now we got the same thing, just extracted that item. Okay, because the items themselves shouldn't make a difference here.
Yeah.
Now what I want to do is have a future. I'm just going to avoid this future. This is just going to be like a fake loader, right? We'll call it loader. And when this widget initializes, we're going to set up loader to be a future dot delayed and 2 seconds sounds okay.
Yeah,
why not? All right, and then if we wrap out a lovely placeholder, all right, text at least, with a future builder, right? Initial data could be, say, let's call it result. And then our future is our loader. Now, if we have this return a string, do something a bit fun here. I think future delay-board chain complete. Yeah, so it returns a completer, which is typed to the T of the computation. So this should mean that if I in here do a function that returns widget.label, this, strictly speaking, this is probably not great. Well, I'll explain this a bit more in here in a second. But anyway, and then and what we want to do is take that result, and then this is again, oh great, but does the job I want it to do. So okay, so for those that aren't this is a bit meh. No, whatever. I'm not really okay. So let me we'll explain what I'm doing in a second. Let's just get this going. Right, text comes out. All of this is just generating some mock scenario, right? Which you might experience. And this is going to be snapshot data.
Not underscore.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So what we're saying here is whilst the app is when this widget starts up, it's going to create a future that's going to complete after 2 seconds, and it's going to return the value of the label passed in. And it's also going to set the local variable result to be that value. So this is key. So what's going to happen on the first build, result is going to be null. So data is going to be null. So we're going to display the word loading. Once the future finishes, it updates and rebuilds the builder with a new snapshot of that data. And that data in the response is going to be the result of this future, which is the widget label, right? If at any point a complete rebuild of this takes place, the initial data will be result. Now, you don't actually have to do this, strictly speaking, but it's kind of nice, right? Yes, we could use a circular.
Yeah, we could.
I don't read. It's not really required for this example, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now if I restart this, we should see loading. Boom, they all load in.
Cool. Yep.
And then when I scroll, as more content loads in, the delay of 2 seconds, but it eventually comes in. And if I scroll back up,
it
stays loaded because they're recycled, right? Like they're not being loaded. This is the correct behavior. Okay, so now what we can do is to stop them from loading again. We say with automatic keep alive client mixin.
Yep.
And then you can decide when you want to keep it alive. In this case, I want it to always be kept alive once it's been made. So we say true. So this keeps the state around so that it can be reused. Now so we'll show this working now. So 0, 1, 2, 3. I scroll down, we get loading. Keep going, we get more loading. And when I scroll back up, what don't we have? Any more loading, right? This is what we want. Perfect. Right, cool. Okay. So then we're like, okay, so what will happen is the item widget might be being reused right now. And if that's the case, then you might get a different label being passed in. And in which case, we need a different, actually, I'm saying that we do actually need to do this. It's complaining because to keep it alive when build takes place, you need to ensure keep alive.
Oh, yeah.
But that's how you do it. Right. Okay. So we want maybe a nicer way of doing this loader. So what we can do, to be honest, we can actually get rid of our initial data. Because we're only creating the loader once and it's always going to have its result. I think that's a nice optimization to get rid of that need for that. And then if we, and then here, the loader, we kind of have to do this twice. So I'm going to want to say void update loader. Do that. So when the widget first starts up, we want to update our loader. And then here on did update widget, if widget.label is different from old widget.label, so our input's changed. Because remember, our asynchronous task is returning that label. So if it changes, it should change.
Yeah.
Then we want to say update loader. And in this case, we're probably better off putting label here and passing that in. This keeps the context within the asynchronous function. It's generally speaking nice in that way, right? So not that it's required. It just solves a few bugs you might get to later. So to just be clear, any parameters that any fields that are required by asynchronous code ideally should be passed to that asynchronous code. That way, they're known at the time the asynchronous function was called. Yeah. Otherwise, what happens as the asynchronous function proceeds, the values outside might change, which gives you an undesired effect on your asynchronous function. That's normally what happens, basically. Yeah. Anyway.
No weird errors that you got to try and track down.
Yeah. All right. So that's our widget now. So let's restart. Make sure it all works. Loading. Scroll down. And I can keep scrolling, and those are continue loading. And eventually, there you go, 21. They go back up. They've all loaded. Cool. And there's no dodginess here. It all looks like it's working fine.
Yeah.
Right?
So far, so good.
So far, so good. Now let's just adjust this and get some more on the screen. So let's make this 1.9. Let's do 2.4. Maybe more. So a lot more items on the screen, just so we can sort of see this happening. So what I want to do, first of all, any sibling widget that is the same type should have a key. So this should have a key, and it needs to identify itself by the, let's call this value. It should identify itself not by the index, but by its content. In this case, I'm going to identify its key by its value. And why is that? Oh, comma. Right. Okay. And this again, loading. Cool. All those futures. There you go. Done.
Yep.
Okay. So now what I need to do is have a mechanism in here where I can press an X button and delete one of these items. Right. All right. Let's see if this works. So we want to pass in a function to our item that reports the. We should just do a void callback, actually, saying that.
Yeah.
And it just says on delete, right? There you go. On delete pressed. Okay, and then down here, the widget itself will have. I think we'll put this in a stack. And then on the center right, by the way, it's alignment directional. Center end is what most people should be using. This means that it works from right to left and left to right.
Yeah. Good point.
I always end up correcting myself. And we want a button here, so we're doing icon button, and its on pressed will be the widget on delete, and its icon will be a
trash can.
Yeah, is it like a delete or something? Yeah, delete trash can. Yeah, let's just do that. Right. Let's go with the defaults, whatever the default colors are, and everything else does enough for us. And then up here on delete, we're going to send back a function. Pardon me. And that's going to do, let's do delete index. So we go data. I guess we want to remove at index, and then we can do that in a set state since our state's been removed. We can also do it based on the value and then hunt down that value. Sure. I mean, we convert it to a string and back, so this works. All right, so let's restart, see what we get. Let's delete icons, and I scroll down. There it all is. Lovely. Cool. So what happens if I delete 2?
Yeah, I wonder if it's something with the internals of how it's like
Look, I mean, that shouldn't happen. Look, why are the top ones staying and the bottom ones all going? Like, I'm removing one item and they're keyed.
Yeah,
that is a bug.
But it does have to redraw them.
Find China's index callback. What? I don't know what you're talking about, Lydia.
Okay.
But you see what I'm saying? Like if I delete something, why are we getting why are they getting reinitialized? They've already been initialized once, right? They're even keep alive. There's zero reason for those widgets.
Yeah.
I don't get it. That's the thing, right? Like, I
Well, let's look at
yeah. Go on.
No, I was gonna say let's look at what the delete code is doing.
So this is normal. We've got
you
need a widget that set the keep alive in the parent data to true, like text field. Otherwise, you need to wrap your widget in a keep alive widget. No, that's what we've done with the automatic keep alive mixing. So the mixing ensures that, right? So that does a similar job. I mean, happy to try it. Maybe I'm wrong.
Try it. Maybe it'll work, but it should be doing that already.
So what you're suggesting, Joan, is the widget. You need a widget set the keep alive in the parent data. The true, like text field. Yeah, but this is what this does, right? Automatic keep alive, right? It sends up the notification. And then what happens is, by default, every list view item has the keep alive. See the add automatic keep alives. That's default set to true.
Yeah.
Right. So which gives you those keep alive widgets. Let's go take a look. Where is it? I mean, I may be wrong about this, and it's been a while. Let's go take a look at where this is being used. Come on. Oh, I know you're being used somewhere. Thank you. Yeah, automatic keep alive, selection keep alive. A widget that listens to keep alive notification and maintains a keep alive widget appropriately. Yeah, that's what I thought. So this is what we're saying. So we have the automatic keep alive mixing. That is the mixing that for the parent data with keep alive ball. Yeah, but it's already, sorry, maybe there's a delay on the stream here, Joan. So, but as you can see here, it literally says it maintains a keep alive widget appropriately for you, listening to keep alive notifications that bubble up the tree. So that's the mechanism in which this all hooks together. I mean, you can see the difference with keep alive. So I think there's a difference here, Joan, right? Like, so I showed that at the very beginning that without keep alive, yes, of course they get rebuilt. But this is when you delete something, when a widget gets removed. This child index, find child index.
Well, yeah, they're just talking about how to get the index that you're trying to.
Called to find the new index of a child based on its key in case of reordering. He might be onto something here. If not provided, a child widget may not map it to its existing render object when the order is returned and the builder changes. This may result in state loss. Ta-da! This sounds exactly what we want. Okay, cool. This callback should take an input of key and return the index of the child element. Right. Okay. This is good. See, we're getting there. All right, let's do it. I've literally never done this before.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Always love it. Right. So this makes sense. So this is understanding which key relates to which index, right? So in this case, we could take the key's value. This is a string. So if we do a value key here of an integer, right? This makes more sense. Yep. And then in here we say key as value key, getting the value, which in this case would be an integer. And then we want to look up the index of that. So we want to say data dot index of this. And apparently that's going to solve it. I'm happy if it does.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. We have a winner. That is awesome. Check that out. That is brilliant. I never had to implement. I literally never once implemented that method. I can't think of one time I've ever implemented that. It makes so much sense. It's interesting though, because you think like it's already got an index attached to it before, and I kind of feel that that's really like this. I think so. So first of all, by the way, Dan needs to get his name up on the screen here. They do, and yeah. So I think that there's an interesting point here, right? That their expectation from a widget in the framework is definitely one of, if it's got a key, it's going to be maintained.
Yeah.
Right. There's no expectation to implement this. Now, what's really interesting about this is there's no reason why they couldn't be built into list view.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. Why isn't this built in? Yeah, it should be.
If it's got a key, if a widget's got a key that if the top level widget that it returns has got a key, which obviously it does because it passes that key to this function, then why not keep track of the index and it came from?
Yeah.
I guess this, don't get me wrong, this gives it more flexibility, but I feel like there should be a default. The default could just be that it knows what widget was returned for what index, capture that into a map, and go, okay, when I need to know which index it is, here's the index it was in last frame. Okay, now change it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see how that's like, don't get me wrong, less effective. Maybe less efficient, should I say. But yeah, that's really cool, though. That is really cool. So cool. It's not bugged in, is it? That's no. I'm gonna I wouldn't call it a bug, right? But equally I wouldn't call it a win either. What kind of annoys me is more about the fact that, you know, that is not, there's no obvious, maybe it's just I'm just not looking at the stuff because it's been doing it for so long, right? Let's see what it does. What does it actually say? Interesting. Well, that's interesting. It's coming from page view.
Yeah.
Well, the documentation is, but
yeah.
Okay. I'm already disappointed. Because there's zero documentation about this apart from what's been copied over from the other one, right? On which will be on the constructor here. Right, that is nowhere to be found. Well, you learn something new every day. I wonder if we can do anything more with this.
No.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
I feel like I should do something else now. Who wants to see some code? We should do something like that. Was really quick and simple. I'm fine with that. But I'm hoping for something a bit longer. That's what time do you have to go, by the way?
I'm gonna need to get going here pretty soon.
All right.
I'm gonna throw out a question though, because this has come up in Twitter recently in a discussion that a few of us had. Do you think there is a need for more templates, more opinionated, fuller templates to help people get started quicker? So in other words, right, we got a lot of the templates are pretty basic, right? But what if you had a template or a site you could go to and download, you know, a getting started, you know, zip that had, you know, a basic generic app structure and everything done for you. To help you get started, right? So obviously they'd be opinionated. So like you'd have a authentication and with Firebase and whatever, some backend maybe for storage and a state management using maybe Block or Riverpod or something, or maybe there'd be samples of both for somebody that liked Riverpod versus somebody who would prefer Block. but something that you could use to get started quicker instead of having to write a lot of that stuff if you're new.
So it's interesting because I had a conversation about this with the Flutter team themselves.
Long time
I was
ago.
going to write that for them.
Yeah.
Quite
I
some
know
time ago.
we've had that early on, and they didn't want to go that route.
And what came of this though, for those that don't know, is
Mason,
one
yes,
is
good. Yes.
You can. Well, I want to show you this. So most people don't realize. Oh, let's clear this.
Oh, you can create your own templates, right? From a project.
Yeah, you can create your own templates, but it wasn't that. I wanted to show that when you do Flutter create, you can actually specify -- template and give it a type.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's in it. Why is that listed twice?
Oh, that's weird.
Whatever. That's interesting. Anyway, and as you can see here, you can specify skeleton.
Right.
Generates a list view template wizards. This is actually the one you want to use instead of app.
Yes.
Which is the counter app. So this one actually gives you a more fuller example of an application. And then on top of that, you'll notice here, sample, and then the idea of the sample.
Yep.
And and that way, essentially it's the same thing, right? So that actually goes and grabs one of the samples and will then use that as your basis.
Yeah.
So I mean, I didn't even know this one existed. Look, -e empty creates an application template with main.dart that is minimal, including no comments or starting point for a new application implies template app. That's really helpful because I end up doing create app and then just having to wipe
delete the comments.
Good to know.
Yep.
And then look, list samples there as well. So I think like there's there is ways of doing it. I do agree though that I mean like there's tools out there that make things more modular. But I mean like what you actually the problem here is I mean you could do this, but then then it's the questions are why can't I do this with this thing? And it's like, well, because that's your job to make an app, right? Like I think there's an aspect of this which is yes, provide examples, yes, do stuff, make stuff modular. I do hesitate at how much you supply prescribed up front because you get into the getX regime as well then of like this why doesn't your example support the thing I want to do? I wanted to support this thing and you're now maintaining a whole new set of code, which is just it's making developers' lives easier, but equally you're also giving a prescribed way. The great thing about Flutter is you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. Yep. Well, that's what I mean. Like if you did just say you did a basic shopping app or something, just
like Wow Shopping.
Right. Yeah. And then you turn that into, a template. Well,
but that's what it is as an example. I mean,
exactly. Yeah. Right. And that's what that's what I've been going back and forth with is like, well, you can find examples of doing all the stuff you want to do. They're not all together. Right. So you might be able to find an example that does, responsive and gives you tablet and phone and whatever in a page or two. Maybe it's not extensive enough for a full-fledged app or cover all your scenarios because that's not going to be easy to hit all the scenarios that people might run into in navigation and menus and things like that.
I mean, it's literally the idea around the Wow Shopping stuff was to do that kind of thing, right? To give people an example to run by. That's open source. I mean,
and then you get into so I'm going to build the app and I'm going to use Block for state management. Okay, great. But now, like you said, somebody comes around and says, well, I don't like Block. How do I find the same thing in Riverpod? Well, you don't build it in Riverpod.
Well, that was that was the original To Do app by Brian Egan, right? I think it was Brian Egan that did the To Do one.
Yeah, I think so.
And he went ahead and we implemented every single different state management so you could see how you would implement the simple thing.
Yep.
And it's one of the reasons there's branches in the Wow Shopping app for exactly the same reasons. So there's one for Riverpod, there's one for Block. They're not being maintained by the authors, but I mean, if anyone wants to go,
you could go look, do
it, then yes, sure. But again, like this thing, like who's maintaining this, right?
Well, that's once it's out, is it maintained?
I mean, it becomes like, and at some point, it becomes like all like Riverpod keeps getting new versions. You got someone to update it.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of the discussion is, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. I think it would help for some folks, but yeah, I also think it would either die off fast because of no support or become something that is, needs a lot of maintenance.
Okay. Well,
okay.
I don't think there's any more to add at the moment. I don't think. I mean, what are your thoughts at the moment on? I don't think we need to. The example worked out well.
Yeah. No. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll be going for 3 hours. I think
no more questions. I think we've been going long enough.
No.
Thanks.
No, I didn't see anything pop up in there.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll call it there.
All right.
I'm going to try and do some more live coding this week. I didn't get to it last week again.
Oh, okay.
Apologies. But hopefully,
let me know if I'm around. Maybe I'll hop on.
Yeah, we'll do. Awesome.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And we'll see you again same time next week.
Yep.
Bye-bye.